meeting to order. Also, may I have a motion to excuse Board Member Mrs. Yu from the board meeting tonight due to personal matters? I need a motion and second, please.
So moved.
You in a second?
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
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 So the motion passes 5-0 and abstain 2, right? Okay, then you can do roll call, please.
Oh, we're missing.
President Mrs. Say,
Present?
Vice President Mr. Nishii,
Present.
Board Member Mr. Beach,
Present.
Board Member Dr. Eugenio,
Here.
Board Member Dr. Rio. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Danielle. This evening, we were discussing the following item in closed section: public employee discipline, dismissal, release, evaluation, one matter under Government Code Number 54957. We also have public employee appointment. One is a principal Burbank Elementary School, principal Melbourne Elementary School. And we also have a principal appointment process to July on school board recess. And on Government Code Number 54957. Anticipate litigation, conference with legal counsel, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to Government Code Number 54956.9 E1, one matter. Okay. Now to public comment.
I do
Clerk,
not,
Ms. Niuna, do you have anyone?
I do not see any.
Thank you. So now we move to closed session. May I have a motion and second, please?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed 6-0. board's back in open session. May I have a motion and second for board back in open session?
So moved.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion 6-0. Okay. Please silence your cell phone. For tonight, in closed section, the board discussed public employee discipline, dismissal, release, evaluation, one matter under government code number 54957. And then public employee appointment, Principal Burbank Elementary School, Principal Melbourne Elementary School, Principal appointment process July, school board recess, which is government code number 54957. Anticipate litigation, conference with the legal counsel, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to government code number 54956.9, E1, one matter. And tonight, we're going to have our board member, Dr. Rio, for leading our Pledge of Allegiance.
Everyone please stand. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rios. Now, for our presentation, Spotlight on Teaching and Learning, first, we'd like to have Communication Officer update, Mr. Scott Smith. Mr. Smith is our Communication Officer. Mr. Smith, thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Well, good evening, Madam President, Vice President, Mr. Yep. There we go. No? No?
I thought I can hear.
Let's try it. Better?
Yeah.
All right, we'll just get right up here. Well, good evening, President Mrs. Say, Vice President Mr. Nishii, Clerk Mr. Noyola, esteemed board members, Superintendent Dr. Zilo, Cabinet, and community. It's great to be here with you again to give you an update on our communications efforts over the past school year. As a reminder, the Communications Office is made up of myself, 2 professional experts who help with video and graphic design work, and that is our team. The Communications Office handles district-wide external communications, a large portion of internal communications, and public records requests. Now more than ever, we need to ensure that we are sharing the great stories from all across the district. We do this through weekly communications showcasing stories, videos, and photos about our amazing students and educators. This communication, called the Community Update, has reached a total of over 1 million readers through May of this year, averaging nearly 120,000 reads each month. Our social media channels are an important avenue of sharing information with our district community. Through Facebook, Instagram, X, the artist formerly known as Twitter, YouTube, and now LinkedIn, we have reached nearly 400,000 this year alone. Our followers have grown by over 23% this year over last year, with well over 5,300 following us on social media. Video continues to be a great way to share our story. Thanks to Mr. Beach for letting us follow him during his school visits earlier this year. We built a video reach of over 25,000 through our YouTube channel. Dr. Zilo has also shared several videos that have been very popular, reaching 9,000. Through the end of May, more than 60 stories about the district were published or broadcast by news media outlets. These stories covered awards and recognition of our schools and all the great things our students are doing. We worked with the local newspaper, the Los Cerritos Community News, along with regional and national news media outlets like the Long Beach Press-Telegram, World News Daily, the Downey and Norwalk Patriot, Reuters, and Education Week. This year, we reintroduced the Monday Message to help ABC staff members stay informed about all the great things going on here in the district. Sent each Monday morning, mostly, this e-publication contains Dr. Zitlo's thoughts, important notices for staff members, and stories about our students and schools. The Monday Message averages over 8,000 total views each month, about 2,000 per issue. Stats are great, but I really enjoy hearing from our staff members who come up to me and thank us for sending out the Monday Message so they know what's going on throughout the district. One of the most surprising aspects of my job when I started nearly 5 years ago was learning that public schools needed to market. Since that time, we have worked to refine our marketing and outreach program. This year, as in past years, our goal is to build our out-of-district enrollment and our brand presence across the region. We have focused our efforts to target those markets, giving us the best chance to build attendance. This market includes those areas around the district with families who have school-age children, along with those areas where we already draw students from. Our direct mail program targets families with children in specific zip codes, and our online advertising reaches a specific demographic of users within a 25-mile radius of the district. Through these efforts, combined with some traditional advertising and news publications, we have reached over 1.4 million this year. We also have started a Google Ads campaign recently that is over 2,500 impressions and 1,200 clicks in just a few months. As a public agency, we routinely respond to requests for public records. This year, we've handled about 40 requests. I'd like to thank those departments and school administrators for their assistance in answering these requests. These requests, as you might understand, can be time-consuming for all involved, and we work hard to answer all requests within the legal time limitations. As I close my report this evening, I want to thank our district community and my colleagues here at ABC for sharing their stories with me so I can tell the world about our amazing students, teachers, staff members, and schools. As always, it is my honor to share our stories. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, anybody from our board here? Since now, I just want to let you know, Mr. Smith, you are wonderful. Really, thank you. One of the highlights I never mentioned to you, I'm going to mention to public tonight. You know, you helped me find my long-term neighbor. They find it through the social media, and they kind of saw my pictures. Say, I think I know that girl. So anyway, so they through the Facebook and the line, we connected. So I'm going to Taiwan visit them because you. Thank you so much. And a lot of people talk about our school because you. The social media, like you said, is a major key. Open our district to the outside world. You did a wonderful job. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Next one is our campus security safety officer update, and we'd like to have a Mr. Daniel Ornelas. That's, yeah, thank you. So glad to see you again.
Good evening, Madam President, esteemed board members, Superintendent Dr. Zietlow. My name is Daniel Ornelas. I have the privilege of serving as a Chief Safety Officer for the school district. Today, I come before you to provide an overview of our current safety protocols, initiatives, and future plans aimed at ensuring the well-being and security of our students, staff, and visitors. First and foremost, I want to express my utmost commitment to prioritizing safety within our educational community. In today's dynamic and ever-evolving landscape, the safety and security of our schools have become paramount concerns for all stakeholders. As such, my role is dedicated to implementing comprehensive strategies that encompass various aspects of safety, ranging from physical security measures to emergency preparedness protocols. Our approach to safety is multifaceted, encompassing both proactive and reactive measures. We continuously assess and improve our infrastructure to mitigate potential risk, from enhancing access control systems to implementing surveillance technologies. Additionally, we prioritize ongoing training and professional development for our staff, empowering them with the knowledge and skills necessary to respond effectively to any situation that may arise. Emergency preparedness is a cornerstone of our safety initiatives. We have developed robust, comprehensive safety school plans tailored to different scenarios, ensuring that everyone knows their roles and responsibilities in the event of a crisis. Regular drills and simulations are conducted to test and refine these protocols, allowing us to identify areas for improvement and enhance our overall readiness. Furthermore, fostering a culture of safety and vigilance is essential in creating a secure environment. We encourage open communication and collaboration among students, staff, parents, and community members, emphasizing the importance of reporting any concerns of suspicious activities promptly. We have partnered with LASD Cerritos and Lakewood, as well as the City of Cerritos, regarding any criminal or suspicious activity in and around our school sites. Looking ahead, we are committed to staying at the forefront of safety, innovation, best practices. This includes exploring emerging technologies, leveraging data analysis to inform decision-making, and collaborating with local law enforcement and emergency response agencies to strengthen our partnerships and coordination. In closing, I want to reassure you that safety remains our top priority, and we will spare no effort in our pursuit of creating a safe and nurturing learning environment for all. I am grateful for the opportunity to serve our district community in this capacity and look forward to working collaboratively with each of you to uphold our shared commitment to safety.
Well, thank you, Mr. Onanos. Just want to say, really appreciate it. You know, safety is always my colleagues' major concern besides social media, and you played a major key roles in here. We sincerely appreciate and welcome to join with us.
Thank you. And I just wanted to say, make one update. I think that Mr. Beach and Dr. Zietler were approached by a company maybe last year at a convention, and we're working with them, and hopefully we'll have something in place through Safety EQ here in the very, very near future. They offered us a pilot program that we're working through the technology issues we have right now.
Thank you for making us better. Thank you.
Thank you.
So next one is, may I have a motion to approve? Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on a second, Mr. O'Neill. Just a second. Because I wait. We have our Vice President, Mr. Nishii, would have to some per se, please.
Yes, sir.
So I'm very glad that we have you as a board as providing security for our kids and providing overarching security plan for our kids. And I know that you're not going to disclose any of that because that's confidential, and we want to keep that to the school level. But yes, I've heard some good things about some of the trainings that we've had for the people that say this is a really good training, not realistic, how do I say, practical training. And so what are some of the things that you would like to do for this upcoming year, not specifically, but in general, as it relates to emerging technologies?
Well, there's a couple things that we are working on, and one of the things that we will hopefully have implemented when school starts is a QR code. And what we've seen in the past is that we have an 800 number for people to call in and identify issues that may be happening in the schools, and that number's just not being utilized. Kids are not going to call in, parents are not going to call in. So we're creating a QR code so kids and parents can use the QR code and just use their cell phone and type in the whatever issue they have. We have a drop-down menu that tells. It's very basic. It talks about the school where the incident occurred. It talks about, and it gives a brief description. We've had some principals look at it. I've reached out to some of the students from the different high schools to have them look at it, along with Angelica and Dr. Loyce. I think that that's something that's going to really help, and what we're able to do with a QR code is put it in places where people don't have to walk up to a wall. You can put it in a bathroom stall where kids can see that, do it in private. Speaking to Scott, we can put it on the website. These are things that I think that will help, hopefully, get information across to all of us. So in case something's occurring at a school, we'll be able to get in front of it and mitigate it before it occurs.
So it's not in place yet, but the plan is to have that in place where you have something happens and you have the QR code and you're able to report it right away.
Yes, sir.
What is our safety and security budget?
Pardon me?
What is our safety budget roughly? In this big, huge budget books, how much do we spend on safety?
That I don't know.
Okay, that could be for a later report.
I could have that next time, yes.
Yeah. Thank you. I mean, it's just a lot of money, I know, but our kids' safety is very important, so. But I want to know what is the ratio in terms of safety and everything else that we spend on?
And I think that in terms of money, what we're able to do is there's so many companies out there that are merging kind of the same technology, so many of them are willing to give us pilot programs or give us vape sensors for free for a couple months to see how well they work for us. So we've had some vapes, a vape sensor, and what's good about that too is that we saw problems that we didn't anticipate, like having people staff it. When somebody gets an alert that there's vaping in a bathroom, how long does it take to get to that person's cell phone? Where are they on campus? And how soon can they get there? So those are things that we never thought about. We did realize too that we can't use it, a battery operated one. It has to be hardwired in. The batteries are supposedly good for 30 days, but that wasn't the case with this company. One of the batteries went bad, so we had one. So those are things that we're learning, and we're able to save money that way, that we can figure out before we go out and spend money on a product that isn't going to be beneficial to us in the long run. And rather than getting a battery, we know we have to hardwire it.
Thank you. So it's like vaping sensors, so that's good. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. I do want to remind my colleague, if you're going to push the button, push ahead of the time. Because I look right side to left side, I go back again, there's nothing here. But then after I start talking and then realize somebody pushing the button, do me a big favor, everyone, please just push your button, because there's kind of first and second line up here. Okay, thank you. So, thank you. Now, may I have a motion to approve the agenda for the regular meeting of June the 18th, 2024? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed 6-0. Now it's approved minutes. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of June 4, 2024?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
6-0. Now it's my report. I promised my grandchildren that everything will be fine, that I can spend time with you guys. Unfortunately, there's still some events happen to our district, but I'm very honored to attend. I hope at this point, everyone's summer is off to a great start. And I know that many of our staff are still working hard with the summer school and planning for the next school year things. Here are some of the events I have attended since our last meeting. June 12th, Cerritos Day of the Cerritos. It was great to hear about all the great things happening in our Cerritos. And I want to thank Mayor Mr. Solanke and City Manager Mr. Lopez for their hard work in keeping our community safe and strong. On June 13, Bill Hundley retirement event, I want to thank you, Dr. Hundley, for his service to the district. He helped so many students get back to school, serving as a father figure to them. For me, he was like a security blanket. I always felt safe when he was wrong. He always tell me, Sophie, I got you. That's the word he always said to me. At the event, I asked him why he left, which is for his retirement, and after we bought him a new car, new CWA car, but Bill said he'll still come back. So I want to say, Dr. Hundley, we wish you all, and I will see you soon, Bill. On June 14th, the district office summer barbecue. I love attending the summer barbecue. It was wonderful to see our staff having fun. It was our way of saying thank you for your hard work. And I know Mr. Lewin was even there starting brewing, wearing the shelf hat, and what do you call it? I think hamburger, you made a hamburger, right? Not a sausage. They were happy you didn't make sausage because we were worried about burning the sausage. But it was a great job. Thank you, sir. I want to come early, but that day I had an electrician came to my house to fix the ceiling fan. And I need to get it done before I leave this country. So I apologize. I promise you I want to help you, but I didn't. Sorry about that. On June 14, Chinese elected official, I tended to congratulate all of those elected positions. I also want to thank the representative from Congress and the state legislature for visiting with us and listening to our concern. Soon I'll be leaving to visit Taiwan. During my time there, I will be visiting two schools to learn how they teach and to see if there are any best practice that I can bring back. I'll share with them. I want to thank you. That concludes my report. Thank you. So next one is our superintendent report, Dr. Zillow.
Thank you. We hosted our first artificial intelligent AI roundtable on June 11th at Whitney High School. It was a good roundtable, lots of people there to interact. We will be holding two more in this summer session. The first one is tomorrow, June 19th at 2:30 p.m. at Hawaiian Elementary School. And then the second one will be a virtual one on Tuesday, June 25th at 2 p.m. On the district website, you are able to review the initial draft of information we've put together around responsible use of AI. And you can also provide feedback and see the feedback of others in that space. We will be continuing this conversation as we move into the fall, but we wanted to get a jump on having interactions around it. In terms of other work happening for me, in the area of shared vision of learning and growth, I was able to host our district leadership team advance on June 5th, where we looked at what's coming for the year with all of our management and confidential who were able to come that morning. With the start of summer school, it's a little hard, but we tried to pull them all together a little bit. And then we had our cabinet retreat in planning for 24-25 on June 6th. I was able to attend the AVID District Leader Professional Learning on June 11th with a team of 2 schools and district staff from our district at the AVID Summer Institute, just working on building that collaborative culture of teaching and learning. And then we did a couple of professional learnings where myself and all of our division assistants and our divisions led a workshop in the area of customer service, collaboration, and effectiveness on June 7th or 13th, depending on when the team from the site or department could come. Good days, good learning. We're working toward a common vision of what customer service should be and key features of what we should do in order to engage and assist people coming into our offices and workspaces. And then finally, on June 12th, I did attend the State of the City of Cerritos with some of our colleagues up here. It was a good event and learned a lot about things that are coming for the City of Cerritos. That's my report.
Thank you. You kept your promise. When you hire, you say, I want to focus on the customer services. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Next one, do we have employee representative reports here tonight? Thank you. So next one will be our public comment. Board Clerk Neola.
Thank you, President Say. Public comments is now open. Persons wishing to address the board should fill out a card located on the table by the door and place it in the silver tin. Speakers will be called in sequence during public comment section, which is limited to 1 hour, and each speaker to a presentation of 5 minutes unless the board wishes to waive the time limit. Those who have a group concern are encouraged to select a spokesperson to address the board. Please remember that the board is unable to directly respond to comments made during public comment section, and neither the board nor district staff verify the accuracy of the statements made during public comments. Persons wishing to address the board on a specific agenda item at the time the item is under discussion are limited to 5 minutes each and will be called to speak following the staff comments and prior to the board discussion and taking action. Adverse remarks about a person's race, ancestry, ethnic group, identification, religion, color, national origin, sex, sexual orientation, gender, mental or physical disability, or age may not be made. Please avoid remarks or charges which reflect upon the character, motives, qualifications, or ability of any school district employee. Concerns presented to the board will be followed up and addressed by the appropriate staff. Our first public comment, we have Jay and Jaina Doshi.
Thank you, Mr. Neola. Is this from Sid? Yes. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Awesome.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Jay Doshi,
And good evening, my name is Jaina Doshi.
and we are the co-presidents of the California Social Resource Database. Our third co-president, Siddharth Watwani, was not able to make it today, but he is also here. So just to tell you a little bit more about myself, I graduated from Cornell University, majoring in biology and society in May 2022, and I pursued a Fulbright scholarship this past year in Canada to pursue public health and health insurance policy.
And then a little bit more about myself. I'm a rising junior at UC Berkeley on the pre-medical track and studying public health and psychology. And Sid is also a rising junior at UCLA studying biology, and he's been in contact with President Sophia Say about our upcoming project.
And one thing about all three of us is that we're all local, and we went to Cerritos in Leal, or Gonzalez Elementary in Leal, so we're excited to share with you our initiative. So just a little more about the California Social Resource Database. We're a social resource tool in all of California, throughout all 58 counties. We provide services to about housing, food pantries, health insurance, and community health clinics, as well as other clinics, through our website, caliresources.org. We have served over 75,000 individuals, and we have, due to the amount of users, the University of California, San Francisco had reached out to us and helped and partnered with us for the UCSF Emergency Department Discharge Navigator, which is a similar platform used in their emergency department.
So now we're going to go ahead and introduce our new initiative. So if you go to the second page, what we are proposing is a health education curriculum for the upcoming school year, or hopefully for many more school years. And so right now it's called the Healthy Minds Week. And the purpose of this initiative is to address health issues and the social determinants of health that a lot of young children aren't aware of. Currently, only 12% of Americans are considered to be proficient in health literacy, and so we found that one of the ways to contradict that is by working directly with elementary students. So we spent this last year talking to 25 different students across the ABC Unified School District in elementary schools, including Gonzalez, Leal, Cerritos, and what we found was that a lot of the kids are really aware of what health is, but can't really go into depth. And so if we look into this proposed week, these are 5 topics that we feel would be really helpful for these kids to learn. So these proposed topics are healthy eating, proper hygiene, basic health literacy, identifying health problems, and mental health care and peer support. And as students who went to Gonzalez Elementary, we were really grateful for the education we had, and we think it contributed a lot to what we've been able to do today. And the one thing we always wish was if we were able to, as people and young adults navigating healthcare systems on our own, we found that if these younger kids were able to have more access to understanding really basic things such as, oh, like this is a symptom that maybe I'm getting sick, maybe I should, go to the nurse or tell my parents, or oh, like this is what stress is, I could maybe deal with it this way. Addressing all of these small issues from a really young age is what we found could help carry and make much more healthier lives as they go older and are able to navigate themselves through a healthcare system. So on the next page, this is just one proposed curriculum for our last day, which would be the mental health care. And specifically, if you go through it, we wanted to address topics that are comprehensible within mental health. So not just understanding that, oh, like mental health is, making sure I'm taking care of myself, but specifically what are the small subtopics. So we would talk about things including introducing how you can understand what mental health is for students that are in kindergarten. That would maybe be as simple as having a feelings chart and understanding that this is an emotion and this is how if I have my heartbeat racing, that probably means that I'm feeling scared or anxious, and this is what I can do to target that. Then we would talk about stress and coping for maybe some of the older kids in 5th and 6th grade, and that having stress is completely normal. It's not something to be scared of, but rather if I'm feeling stressed, here's super simple ways to target that. And then we also have self-esteem, positive self-talk, and mindfulness as they progress to middle school and high school, doing small things such as self-affirmations and understanding what positive self-talk is can have a really impactful change on the way they navigate the rest of their school. And then we wanted to end our mental health curriculum on supporting peers and asking for help, because something that we found as young adults is it's even hard for us to ask for help because, we're still learning what all of these issues are. So if they're able to learn it from a young age, they can not only help themselves, but help the people around them and help their parents be much more receptive to all these issues from a young age. And we have proposed activities such as a gratitude journal, creating a support network map, DIY stress ball making, a worry wall. So these are just some proposed ideas for one of our days, and we have curriculums like this for each of our days.
So right now we do have 40 interns at the California Social Resource Database, and we are actively recruiting and looking for people in undergraduate campuses at UC systems as well as high schools in the local area. And on the final page is a proposed in 2019, our co-president Siddharth Watwani, he had proposed a Healthy Eatings Initiative, which had a similar impact. However, it was not executed because of COVID. So in wake of COVID and now everything is back to normal, we hope to launch this and work with everyone and make this idea possible. So thank you so much for your time. If there's any questions, we're right here. So thank you.
Yeah, sorry about we cannot answer the question. This is a public comment.
Okay.
I will definitely get back to Sydney.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other public comments? Seeing none, I close public comments.
Thank you. Next one is our consent calendar. May I have a motion to approve the consent calendar? Motion second? Second. Thank you. If anyone who wishes to remove any item to be considered separately, if none, all the same.
I'd like to pull 1.1.
Push a number. Go ahead, Vice President Ms. Nishii.
Thank you, Madam President. So this is the renewed contract with Creative Leadership Solutions, and it looks like it's for $380,000, which is great. It provides a lot of good services, which would be good. What kind of explains the difference between the previous cost and the current cost? Because it's a bit different.
Did you say which number you want to pull
Yes,
out?
1.1 on consent calendar,
1.1 consent calendar.
renewed contract. Am I looking at the wrong one?
Oh, that's not here. There was numbers underneath there. Go ahead. Sorry about that.
So it's the difference between the previous one and this one. So what accounts for the difference?
Thank you for your question, Vice President Nishii. The big difference is that we are actually doing a lot more on-site coaching this coming school year. Last year, a lot of the work happened during the LEA Academy, which is a time for our principals and directors to work together, specifically around our instructional objectives to improve learning for our students. This coming year, we want to make sure more of the work happens at the school site so that principals can work with a coach directly and actually work together to observe classroom instruction, look at student work, and try to work towards the on-site work of improving instructional objectives. We will continue the work in LEA, but the LEA piece will be more handled internally by our directors as we move towards a more coaching model for our principals. And as you recall from the LCAP presentation earlier in June, it aligns with our actions and goals that are part of our new LCAP plan.
Great. So it would be helpful if, for the ones that we had, we're always renewing the contracts, and so if I knew what the previous year amount was and then what we did this year, and then maybe a metric as to why we're reapproving for next year. It's always something that they're doing that's great, but just something that I could measure and say, yes, this is why we're renewing this particular contract. It would be helpful, so that way that's the only comment I have in general. Thank you.
Just for clarification, things like
Just
that.
for clarification,
Okay.
so like for this one is 380, the previous
Okay.
year was a certain amount less. And so if that was put forth on the report, then I would be able to say, oh yeah, this is more services. And it looks like more services. And so I
Since
can-
just for clarification, nothing to be changed, we're asking motion.
Absolutely nothing else.
Motion passes.
So then we have to call for a vote.
A call for the vote? Yeah. I thought if for clarification it's clear already, then we'll just go ahead and vote for the consent calendar, the whole thing, right?
You can.
Yeah, I had a motion and second already. Now I'm going to call for the vote. Yeah, right? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye?
6, yeah. Okay, I thought I heard a click. Oh, okay, 6-0. I got a good year. Now, next one's the information item, which is 1.7-1, update on mission and vision statement. Dr. Zillow, please.
Thank you. We've been working this school year to update our mission, our vision. What I'm laying before you is the work of gathering information, starting with you as the board, working with all of our management confidential staff, working with our union partners through our PAL Rep Council, and then from there we actually sent surveys out to students and to parents. And so this is what we've come back with, and so I wanted to see if there were any final comments or thoughts before I begin to roll this out, as this will be the focus for where we will then build our updated strategic plan from as we move into the new year.
Okay. I do know we have one on the floor right now. It's a board member, Mr. Beach.
Thank you, Madam President. Just one quick comment, but I think it's an important one. I think in the mission at the very end where it says we're going to foster a culture of, I think safety should go right there first and foremost, and then comma, and then the other three.
Thank you. Thank you. I missed that part. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Zillow, working so hard with your staff, and I also made some comment when we had the superintendent agenda meeting. So I really appreciate my colleague read it. This is so important for our school's future. Thank you. Since none, I don't see any, so go to the next one, please. We're going to have a 3.27-1, California School Dashboard Local Indicators. Dr. Castro, please.
Thank you, President Say. I am back again to relay information regarding our California School Dashboard Local Indicators this time. There are two parts to the dashboard that I will be presenting as the screen slowly comes down. And that part of the presentation is at first, earlier in the year, we looked at the metrics, which is the data involved with our California dashboard. Now what we're looking at is another part of the requirement for the California School Dashboard, which is more of the qualitative information from our school sites and an explanation regarding professional learning, basic instructional materials, and credentialing of teachers, as well as looking at student survey results and the student connectedness. Some of this information I have reviewed as part of the LCAP presentation. And so it may be a little repetitive, but it is important that you're aware of what's going to be actually printed on the dashboard, because it is reported as part of our system. So without further ado, you can see here from the items that there's 5 areas that we need to look at for the dashboard. First, it's regarding the basics or teachers' instructional materials and facilities. Next is the implementation of academic standards. Third is parent and family engagement. Fourth, our local climate survey, and then access to a broad course of study. Again, this is a requirement from the state of California. As you can see, this is a screenshot of what the website looks like when you go into our California dashboard for ABC Unified. And you can see the components that are laid out there. And underneath it says standard met. So once we submit the report, if we have reviewed it with our board and we have finished conducting all these reviews, then the state of California gives us a standard met and reports it on our dashboard as part of the rollout for this following school year. So first, reporting on our basics of teachers, facilities, and instructional materials. As a reminder, this is kind of looking back at our previous school year, right? This is from the 23-24 school year. We can see for our teaching credentialing report, we have 99% of our teachers highly qualified. Why that's not 100% is because we have situations that happen during the year. Sometimes teachers go on medical leave. We have to replace that teacher with a long-term sub. And sometimes those long-term subs aren't fully credentialed in that specific field. This usually tends to happen in the area of special education, which is very highly specialized, and there's a shortage of staff at this point. And that is most likely some of the areas that we've seen. We do see 100% of our teachers have standards-aligned instructional materials. That's the approval of our state-adopted curriculum and materials. And then 100% of our facilities reviewed meet the standard for the Williams Facilities Inspection, which typically happens in the fall of the school year. Next, for implementation of academics, the state gives us a particular rubric, if you will, that we need to follow as a self-reflection tool. And it asks, based on survey results, if we would report it as Area 5, which is the highest you can achieve, which is full implementation of sustainability. In other words, that we feel that there's evidence to support that the practice is actually happening and that it's sustainable over time. And then you go down to the first level, which is exploration and research phase, meaning we haven't quite implemented that yet, but we're exploring the possibilities of implementation. So as you can see here, we have a variety of surveys we've sent out to our teachers, as well as through our department chairs, our TOSAs, and other staff. And based on some of the responses, you can see that for our teachers, they are reporting full implementation for all of the areas listed above. When it comes to the specific measure of programs to support staff in delivering instruction, this is really about collaboration time, planning time, classroom walkthroughs, and coaching support. We can see that we have full implementation in all of our areas except for history and social science. So last year, science was at initial implementation, and now that's shifted to history, social science. And that also could be for us to consider providing more support to our history, social science teachers. Also, that could be because we have the new ethnic studies standards and classes that we're about to implement, the specific courses. So that's something that we're going to take a closer look at and try to implement more specific coaching support and collaboration time for our history, social science teachers. That could also be support for elementary schools. Remember, in history, social science standards also exist in elementary, and so making sure we're providing structure and support in that area. Again, for implementation of academic standards, there's specific questions around support for teachers and administrators. We have improved in the metrics of identifying professional learning needs on the whole. That we received a rating of full implementation, but we're still receiving, for the second year in a row, an initial implementation of identifying the professional learning needs of the individual and support for teachers in standards they have not mastered. So this is really about each individual saying, I have different needs than maybe the whole group. Maybe we are providing training for all math teachers, but maybe we're not providing enough training for specific needs of specific math teachers in different areas. And so that's something we're going to take a closer look at. We do offer a variety of trainings, as you know. Upcoming August 6th and 7th is our Spark, our Summer Professional Learning event, which is about to happen. And this is an event where we pride ourselves to try to make it like a professional learning conference per se, with keynote speakers and variety of partners for presenters and workshops. We have partners from some of the curriculum that we use, as well as you've approved already, the UCLA Science Project, Adobe, School AI, StudySync, etc. These are all tools that we use in our school sites. We also have training planned for this coming year around the topic of the science of reading to continue our initiative for all students to read by 3rd grade. We are focusing this year, as you saw from our LCAP presentation, on math fluency and number sense, and then working closer with our science teachers to look at performance task trainings. We're also on a focus on restorative practices for our school sites, and that's particularly for our administrators. Training on universal design for learning, which is a strategy to make sure that all students are included in the learning, including students with different abilities, and of course support for paraeducators and support for new teachers. So this is just an overall snapshot of the plans of professional learning for this coming school year. And I will say one of the key pieces to our professional learning is not only do we provide professional learning opportunities, but we also make sure we give teachers a voice and choice. That's really what that August training is for. We also are working to implement another training in January where teachers have voice and choice on what sessions they would like to attend. And that's really the way that we try to approach personalized learning, for teachers to make decisions on areas that they are interested in and therefore selecting those sessions for those training days. For the next standard, we have our parent and family engagement. You can see here, these are the number of participants that we had in this prior school year. This is an increase from last year, and last year we had seen a huge increase already, so we're very proud to say that across all of our school sites we have just over 6,000 participants, and this is a 15% increase from the prior school year. Of course, as you know, with our enrollment being at about 18,000, this is still only a small portion of our parent population, and we continue to strive to increase participation in our surveys across all of our school sites. For questions specific to building relationships with parents, guardians. So I have here highlighted in yellow the area that we noted there was a slight change downwards. We still received a rating of full implementation, which is a good thing because that's on the higher level. If you recall the rubric on a scale of 1 to 5, that's a level 4. However, we saw in the percentages there was a slight shift, and so I'm going to show you some charts to represent that. In the green, what you see is the areas that we can see growth in the responses from families. So here's our data, in particular to parents feeling welcome to participate at this school. So you can see we have a high number of parents that stated agree or strongly agree. When we combine, though, is in this school year, you can see in the yellow, there was an increase of 12% on those that strongly disagree or disagree with the statement. I noticed that prior years, it did not add up to 100%. 88 plus 8 is not 100%, so we're missing about a 4% differential there. And that's because some parents decided to check the box that said NA. So that is why there's some change there. This year, parents felt strongly enough that 4% actually selected disagree. So to us, that means there's a little uptick on parents who are not feeling welcome to come to their school environment. And as you just recently heard from our superintendent, we're working on that initiative, particularly with our school site secretaries, our principals, and trying to create a welcoming culture for our parents as soon as they walk in through that front office door. In regards to making sure that our parents feel that their culture ethnicity is being honored at the school sites, we've seen an increase in the school communicating that importance. As you can see, between strongly agree and agree, there's a high amount of blue. And we can see that in the curriculum, we still have a ways to go. We have a larger band that disagrees with that statement, but we still see an improvement from the prior year, so that's why it's in the green. It's because, we're always striving to improve, but we've seen jumps from the prior year's data. For building partnerships for student outcomes, questions 5 and 6, we saw an improvement, and these particular questions had to do with supporting our teachers and principals to improve the school's capacity to partner with families. In other words, providing more opportunities for families to come into campus, to partner, to be part of school site council, DLAC, LCAP PAC, as well as supporting student learning and development in the home, providing workshops or families with information and resources on how they could do that. So here you could see the charts related to these areas. Parents are provided opportunities to partner with teachers and school administrators on school plans initiatives. You can see we have a huge group in agree and strongly agree, but we still see that 13% band of disagree, so we want to make sure we kind of support that and improve those numbers. But then when you see the question related to the school provides quality counseling or other ways to help students with social emotional needs, we see a larger blue band and a smaller disagree. So that there's a lot of resources being provided to our students and our families to receive that support. As you recall from the prior LCAP presentation, we had a great turnout for our LCAP PAC, which is something we haven't seen in prior years. So we do see that as evidence to the fact that we're trying to improve partnerships with families and really make sure that they feel that their input and voice is being heard in our process. And of course, this last school year, our ABC Community Showcase, where we had a great turnout of families. Our superintendent had a keynote presentation where she shared about her experience with education in her own family. So I think that was a great evidence of us trying to increase and improve our partnerships for student outcomes. Seeking input for decision making. So rate the district's progress in building the capacity of and supporting family members to effectively engage in advisory groups and decision making. So this really is not just about giving the opportunity, but now how do we train and support families to really know how to participate? That's a different aspect than just giving the opportunity or having the meeting. And so we still see that we're at full implementation, which is a high rating, of course, but we also acknowledge that we have some improvements to make in these areas, because we can see the lighter blue band is still agree, but it's larger than our darker blue band, which is strongly agree. And we have some members in our community, 13% approximately, that disagree or strongly disagree. So we want to make sure we're providing families with more of that training or support of how to actively engage in schools and how do we use the school systems and structures. And that could be offering more opportunities such as the Black Family Circle, Hispanic Latino Family Circle, or our DO Committee, which provides some of that opportunity for them to engage in. Next, the next metric we need to report is our local climate survey. And in particular, these questions are asked of our students. These are the questions that are on the California Healthy Kids Survey that measure whether or not students feel connected at school. Questions such as, do you feel close to people at school? Are you happy to be at school? Do you feel like you are a part of the school community? And do you feel teachers treat students fairly? These are all signs from the California Healthy Kids Survey that students would feel connected. Here's our school connectedness results, and I did a trajectory over the last 3 years so you can see kind of the changes in the data. So first, you can see on the far right column in the 23-24 school year, we've actually had improvements in 6th and 7th grade, right? Last year, we were at 69% for 6th grade. We went up to 72%. So we've had some gains. In the 21-22 school year, those numbers were about the same, so we're kind of doing a U shape where we're coming back up from before. But then you see the bottom of the quadrant of 9th and 11th graders in the yellow. And I highlighted that because there does seem to be this flat line that happens for high schoolers. Now that could be developmental, of course, because they start to gain interest outside of the school site. But that's also a sign to us that maybe we need to pay more attention at the high school level about the ways that we help students feel connected. We want to make sure that when we go to school sites and ask students, do you have an adult that you can go to on campus, that every single student can answer yes. That adult may be a teacher, it may be a counselor, it may be an SIA, it may be a paraeducator, but that at least everyone feels connected in some way, shape, or form to their school site so that they can want to come to school and receive the help that they need in various ways. The next one is regarding student safety. As you heard from our safety officer in the district, that we've made several strides and improvements in areas. So you can see over the last 3 years our trajectory, and you can see that we have the last column in green because we've seen some noticeable improvements from the prior school year. So that improvement particularly happened at the high school level, which is good to see. It's kind of the opposite of the previous chart that I showed you, right? So in high school, we can see that students are increasingly feeling safer even from the last 2 years prior to that. So in 9th grade in 21-22, they were at 50%. Now in 23-24, they're at 62%. In 11th grade in the 21-22 school year, they were at 53% feeling safe. Now at 23-24, we're at 63% feeling safe. So we see some gains in those areas in the high school area. Not as many for 6th and 7th. Those numbers actually declined a little bit. As you recall, in the 21-22 school year, we were just all happy to be back, to be honest with you, right? And so students were excited, they felt more connected and safe at school sites, and that could have been part of the metrics that we see here. And then it declined for the following year, but it looks like we're going back up. So again, that U shape, which is what we want to see, that students, we're kind of going back in the right direction for supporting our student safety. The last set of data that I'm going to provide you is our access to a broad course of study. So the state measures this in various ways. First, they measure that in the sense of how many students or the percentage of students that are completing their A through G. A through G, as you may recall, is in California the Cal State or UC requirements to be eligible for a 4-year university in our state's public university system. So overall, our district is almost at 62%, and then you can see the percentages by subgroups. We have areas to improve and continue to work towards, but this is a huge improvement from prior years. All areas here have improved from the last year in particular. Some of those improvements are 1% to 2%, but we still see movement in the right direction. We have no group, all of our subgroups in terms of AP enrollment. We have added new AP courses this coming year, which is our AP Seminar and Research course, which are basically high school level, or college level, research classes. We do feel, because it allows students to make a choice about what they want to research, that we're going to see a higher enrollment for all of our subgroups, because we're offering that at all of our high schools this coming year, our comprehensive high schools. Last but not least, the state also looks at dual enrollment courses. How many students are actually enrolled in dual enrollment? As you recall, our LCAP agreement with Cerritos College focuses on ensuring that our students who are low income have access to dual enrollment classes, as well as our students with disabilities and our other subgroups. You can see the highest percentage of enrollment in dual enrollment is our low income students with economically disadvantaged being 60%. And then you can see that our Hispanic students are second highest in our enrollment at 47%. So it's a good sign that we are making sure we're working within the groups to make sure that students have access, but we definitely want to see that increase. We're starting to do some of that work with partnering with different departments at Cerritos College to see what opportunities can we provide. And in addition, how can we continue to work with our teachers' unions so those opportunities don't impact the work during the school day. One key aspect that we reported on for our dashboard that you should be aware of is to ensure that every student has had an academic review. Specifically in high school, academic reviews are an important way for students to set goals regarding their academic challenges and successes. And so here you see some examples at the elementary level that our EL counselors have been doing at all of our school sites, where they review their LPAC scores, the STAR Renaissance assessments, which is our district benchmarks, as well as the state assessment results, and then talk to students about what's a personal goal, what's a goal with your family, what's an academic short-term goal and a long-term goal, and then consistently meets with students throughout the year so that students know like they have something to work towards and continue to motivate them to work towards those goals. We even have these academic reviews as young as kindergarten, as you can see by the far right, with the little picture icons where students place those pictures within the squares. The academic reviews look a little differently for middle school. As you can tell, there's some requirements that they now need to meet because they need to meet specific promotion requirements, passing their classes, meeting their GPA goals. And so they start to talk to them about how are you doing in your current courses, your GPA, and again, looking at those assessments and making sure that they're setting not only goals for school, but now we start thinking about what are those post-secondary or future career goals that you're interested in. So they can start thinking about how would I plan for that not only now in middle school, but also in high school. Last but not least, we have academic reviews at the high school. As you can tell, there's even more information. They have to make sure they're A through G eligible. They have to make sure they are meeting the graduation requirements. There's specific work-based experiences for career initiatives, CTE pathways, and if they've met their credits or if they're credit deficient. So all these are components that are provided at the high school level and middle school level. Within our student information system, we actually have the ability to plan this out for up to 6 years. So our counselors can go into Aries, actually work with students on that academic plan that you see on paper, enter it, and so that way when students transition from middle school to high school, the next counselor has the information already about what the students plan to do in the future, so they can continue to have those conversations, and on the student end, it doesn't feel like they're starting all over with those conversations. In addition to that, the state of California requires that we look at our college and career indicator. This is one of the state required metrics that this coming year will be a new color on the dashboard. Last year it was just a purple color because we didn't have enough data yet as a state to really report on that. This year it's actually going to be reported as the colors of red, orange, yellow, green, and blue. And so within our student information system, there is a way for us to track it. There's different measurements that the state requires, whether they've complete their college and career readiness through CTE, through the state assessments, the CASP, through college credits, through AP or IB enrollment, A through G by literacy, and even the option for military science. It's not as simple, though, as just, for example, for CTE. It's not enough to complete a CTE pathway. Students actually have to complete a CTE pathway and pass A through G requirements, or complete their CTE pathway and take at least one college credit course. So there's different ways to do that, but the state is always giving us a combination of metrics. For example, for Measure D, you have to complete at least 2 AP courses and pass the test. So again, options, but there's expectations within those options. And as I presented to you before, all these components are being kind of grouped together in making sure that we're providing opportunities for students to increase in their student learner profile. And that concludes my presentation, and I open it up for questions.
I have Board Member Dr. Olga Rios, please.
Thank you. As always, some comments, some questions. I'll I'll start with, I just wanted to make a comment about the long-term sub. I know that there's not a lot we can control, but I just want to say that on a personal basis, it's hard when your child has to sit through a long-term sub, especially in high school, because, sometimes they get one semester to learn a subject, and when they miss out on that, sometimes they don't get a second chance. So I don't know if there are some creative ways to fix that. I can see that in elementary it would also be an issue when kids don't have access to a highly qualified teacher. So again, I really like our staff to consider doing things, thinking outside the box so that our kids don't get to suffer the consequences that come with not having an effective teacher in the classroom. Sometimes these subs do a good job, but they're not. Anyway, I'll stop there. The other comment that I wanted to make, I'm glad that we're talking about customer service. I know that probably my colleagues can relate that we get calls when, our parents don't have a positive experience in the office. That goes such a long way that it really should be a non-negotiable. Our schools need to be welcoming places. Our staff need to be very competent in that area. And parents should not feel, it was kind of sad to see those numbers, that they're not feeling welcomed. Like, granted, there are some difficult parents, and our staff, in turn need support in dealing with those, but, this kind of sends the message that overall we've had more than one person have a bad experience. And so I'm very glad that we're focusing on the customer service aspect. Try to speed it up. I'm very familiar with the Healthy Kids Survey, and it is a snapshot, but again, when we talk about engagement, when we talk about students having a positive experience, they have to feel connected to the school. So I like, it was brought up about that program that we're bringing in. I hope that our principals, our administrators are getting coached in ways to improve this, because in 6th grade, the numbers only get lower, and I know that there are some critical grades, 6th grade, 7th grade, 9th grade, absolutely. To think that, more than 4 kids out of every 10 feel like they're not connected to the school can lead to a variety of issues for us, right? Behaviorally, academically. So I would really like us to prioritize those kind of things and find ways, school should be fun for kids. Kids should want to come to school. And I'm glad that for most of them they are, but it's also concerning that for some of them it's not. Yeah, okay. The rest of them was just mainly yay. Access to the broad course of study. I did have a question about why we only highlight some subgroups and not all. Like, for example, the local results for things like A through G completion rate.
So part of that is because of the state requirements. So part of our state requirements, as it is for our LCAP, is that we must report on low-income students with disabilities, foster homeless youth, and English learners. Those are requirements. Then after that, we have to report any groups that we see are performing below our general population. And so that's why we report on African American and our Hispanic, as well as sometimes you'll see a variety. Sometimes you'll see 2 or other races included in that, because that's part of the requirement that we have to report on the LCAP California dashboard indicator.
Okay.
So this is like a snapshot of what's going to be reported in there. It's usually done in a more narrative form, but that's why I showed you this table, because it's the data or metrics I have to submit to the state.
Got it. And it's probably aligned to that money that we get for LCAP, right?
Right.
So that was the other thing that I wanted to highlight. This past year, it was, I think, close to $29 million. And so we see numbers like 14% of foster youth, achieving A through G completion. It makes me wonder, how we're allocating those funds and why we're not seeing better results. The same thing with the advanced placement courses. And I'm very happy about the dual enrollment. But again, we have the money to provide added resources, and seeing numbers like 18%, 14% to me are very troubling. Yeah. And the last thing was, I love this, academic review. Very, very, very happy to see this. I am wondering, do parents then get sent a copy? Is this accessible at Aries, especially at the high school?
Sorry, I think I turned myself off for a second. Yes, so we do the paper copies because that seems to be more for conversational purposes between the academic counselor and the student. When they start in middle school and high school, we then place it in Aries, and so our families have a section under the parent section of Aries where they can access this academic planner. Usually the school counselors will send out a notification, especially during registration time, for parents to know the updated academic plan is submitted, please take a look, and they send a link. I myself as a parent received that this past school year. And so that those plans are not set in stone, they're adjustable, so if parents have questions, they can reach out to the counselor and say, why are they scheduled to possibly take this class in their junior year? We'd like to see them take it earlier. And then the counselor can explain, some classes are only offered to certain grade levels and things like that. So it's based on the conversation between the student and the counselor, but it's always informing the family and making sure that everyone has communication around the student's particular post-secondary goals.
Yes, goal setting goes a long way, so I was very happy to see that it is also implemented in the elementary grades. I think that's wonderful. Thank you. That is all for me, Madam President.
Yeah, to cover everything I want to ask. I really like the records in the computer. So, when they, from the middle school to the high school, they can review what happened to kids in the past. That's confidential information too, right? And I also like that you have it color-coded, like military services, and those kind of things, I think really very helpful. And anybody seeing none, so I'm gonna, no need to vote on this information item, yeah. Thank you, Dr. Castro, really great. Definitely we can see really prepare for all our board meeting, sincerely appreciate it. Okay, next one will be our Measure BB update. Mr. Nguyen, it's your turn. I know we have a guest here too, right?
Thank you, Board President Say. I would like to introduce our bond program manager, Mr. Rick Wadarama. I'm sorry, Rick. Thank you. He will provide the board with an update on our progress with the Measure BB program. As a reminder, the voters approved Measure BB in November of 2018, authorizing the district to issue up to $258 million in bonds programs to renovate our schools. We're here to provide the board with an update on our progress. Rick?
Yes. Good evening, President Say, Vice President Nishii, Clerk Noyola, board members, and Superintendent Zietlow. This presentation is a bond program update of past accomplishments, current projects, and upcoming projects as well. So what we're going to look at, so initially when I visit with a principal in regards to their upcoming modernization projects, I utilize documents from the facilities master plan that was developed in 2018. And those documents, the primary documents that the board reviewed and approved over time, included what's called the STEPS. And so that acronym looks at safety and security, technology, evolution, parity, and sustainability. And so when I meet with the principal, I go over what those steps were and what that compass that was developed by the Board of Education and what those components mean from a facility standpoint. So for example, when we look at safety and security, the single point of entry, we've developed a video access to each of the administrative offices in the district. We're in the process of implementing, you may have seen those cameras when you visit the main offices, and you have a push button intercom that allows you to have a visual from the office area. But we also are looking at access control. And so Mr. Ornalis mentioned access control, and that's something that we're looking at in regards to access not just to the administrative offices, but to every classroom. So eventually that access control is something, a keypad, essentially a key card access to each of the classrooms. And so that's what we're implementing when we look at the modernizations. And then we look at fencing and visitor management. Obviously the Raptor system is a part of that safety program, but at some point that will also be integrated into our access control systems that are implementing at the schools. And I'll kind of go over some of the projects where that access control is being implemented at. The technology component is essentially data infrastructure. We're looking at fiber optic cabling throughout the campuses, throughout the district. We're doing upgraded wiring for the fiber optic systems, and that's a part of each of our modernizations. And so when we look at sort of what those components are and the costs of our modernization, they incorporate a lot of technology upgrades. So the technology upgrades is fiber optic throughout the entire campus. It's new data wiring in each and every classroom and what's called Cat 6A wiring. So it's upgraded wiring throughout every single classroom. It also includes that infrastructure that when we look at access control, we're looking at part of that safety and security, going back to the steps in the S, is intrusion systems. And so what we're implementing is security systems throughout all the campuses. And I'll go over where the status is in regards to those projects that we're implementing intrusion and access control. We're also looking at EAD's 21st century learning environments, where we're looking at computer labs and media centers. At each of the levels, grade levels, you have different components. So you have the media centers at the high schools, but you also have media centers at the middle schools, but also libraries at the elementary schools. And so the first project that we've started for the elementary modernizations is Bragg Elementary. That's kind of the prototype that we're looking to implement. And as I get to the elementary planning, I'll go over sort of the phasing. But certainly Bragg is that prototype to develop a scope of work that meets the steps. And then we can start implementing and see how those proceed over time. Part of the technology component as well is what that learning environment is at the classroom level. Initially, we started at the high school level with the Nextron system. We've moved to TVs at the middle school, and then we're moving into interactive TVs at the elementary schools. And that was in discussion with the IT department, but also with elementary education on how that would work within an elementary classroom environment. When we look at parity, portable replacement, and new facilities, as we go through the modernization and with the funding that we have available and the impacts of inflation to the funding, really we're looking at how those are less of a factor in how we review the scope of work for each site, but it's certainly a part of what we look at in regards to parity. And that is, what does parity look like for each of the different grade levels and within elementary schools and within each of the schools within that grade level as well. Sustainability, obviously we have the solar program that isn't necessarily a part of Measure BB, but it's being implemented. We're also looking at some EMS systems, which is called the energy management at the gymnasiums at the high schools. And so part of that energy management, we've implemented HVAC at all of the high schools. The last of the HVAC projects is Artesia High School, and that's undergoing construction right now and will be completed by July. The evolution of steps also turned into priorities, and so there was a conceptual priority list developed by the Board of Education in 2019, 2020, and this is the list that came out of that board discussion. And so steps 1 through 10, campus security, which I touched on under the steps, which is the intrusion and the access control, lunch, shelter, playground surfacing, playground equipment. Playground equipment has already been implemented, as well as the playground surfacing. Drop-off lanes at various sites, depending on the type of site and what's occurring on those particular campuses. And then the major component, 4A, 4B, and 4C, which is that campus technology I touched on in regards to the steps, in regards to the furniture and the finishes that we are implementing at all of the schools. And so I'll show you a couple of photos of what we're implementing. Essentially, we've standardized what a classroom is, and we're proceeding on the basis of those standard requirements. Restroom renovations are something that is really driven by DSA and accessibility. So the Americans with Disability Act has an impact on the scope of work that we can accomplish on school sites. And that accessibility requirements are driven by the Division of State Architect which reviews and makes comments on any modernization or school facility plans that are a part of the division of the state architect. When we look at new and renovation of science wings, that's really at the high school level and partially at the middle school level, less so at the elementary level. Certainly when we look at renovate MPRs, that affects elementaries, and we see that at Bragg. It's a major focal point for the school sites, and so that's a part of what we modernize when we develop a set of plans for the Measure BBE bond program. The office renovations are at, when we can accomplish that, we will try to do so, but in general, we provide what we call MDF equipment, which is the main sort of brains of the fiber optic system and the data systems, and I'll kind of show you what that looks like. And then portable classroom replacement is generally not a factor with what we review at the school sites. So when I move on to each of the different grade levels, just to give you an update where we are currently at the high school levels, we are substantially complete with the high schools. We are currently working at Artesia High School with the intrusion and access control systems. Once again, we're implementing the security systems and the access control at Artesia High School. At Whitney High School, we're looking at some structural issues that were a part of the original modernization, which is a soffit repair. And that was something that, from an asset management standpoint, from a facility standpoint, we needed to repair because it was in disrepair, and we wanted to take care of that issue while we had the bond dollars available to do that. Eventually, what we also need to look at is the intrusion and access control systems at Whitney High School as well. At Cerritos High School, currently we're working on the 500 building new finishes. If you recall, we initially started with the admin, the 300, the 400, and the 600 buildings. We added the new science classroom wing at Cerritos High School, and now we're going back to look at equity and parity with the 200 and 500 buildings, essentially implementing a lot of the technology that was done in the 300, 400, and 600, and incorporating those requirements in those two buildings. When we look at Gar High School, we're looking at the final science lab, final completion. That should be complete mid-July. It's been delayed somewhat by some of the inclement weather that we had throughout this winter break, and so that will be complete in about mid-July. Additional projects, once again, is to add the access control system. Once again, we're going backwards to look at what was a part of the original modernizations, and then looking at implementing what was a part of the steps in regards to adding the access control system at Gar High School. When we look at the middle schools, as far as the sites that are substantially complete, Ross Middle School in Tetzlaff and Carmenita are complete with the modernizations of the classrooms. And going back, that includes the technology implementation, the fiber optic, the data wiring. But the next steps, the steps that weren't included in the original modernization, is that access control system. We also are looking at the shade shelters and what those costs are. So after completing the modernization, we'll start implementing shade shelters at those middle schools, but obviously looking at what we can afford from a budget standpoint and what we can accomplish for each of those school sites. The middle schools that are currently in progress for 24-25 include Fedde Middle School, which is under construction, so they've started that phasing and that construction at both Fedde and Haskell. We actually have the same contractor at both sites, and this was a public bid. The bids came in very competitive, so we had great bids for both of those schools. And I think our goal as a program is to develop a set of standards that have parity across all school sites, that we can identify and get competitive bids based on being very specific about the scope of work that we're implementing at those elementary schools. So those are slated to be completed in April of 2025. When we look at the Measure BB budget expenditure update, I broke this out by high schools, and so you can see where we stand currently on the budget. And this is as of March 31st of 2024. We haven't received the expenditure budget that will be coming out in June, but this is where we stand currently. So this does not incorporate some of those bids that are a part of each of these school sites. And so we have Artesia, Cerritos, Gar, and Whitney. The ABC Adult School, we're still looking at what we're going to do for the adult schools. We haven't developed a plan for that yet. At Tracy High School, we have some issues with the types of buildings that we have on that campus, and so there are significant, we would have to deal with some seismic upgrades for some of those buildings. But what we're looking at is how can we incorporate the modernization scope of work that were developed at Artesia, Cerritos, and Gar and Whitney. And so we're developing a plan now to look at technology upgrades, finishes upgrades, and incorporating parity-wise the same modernization scope of work that we've done at the high schools. It won't be difficult to implement those, and so we're looking at a plan to start that implementation over the course of the next year. But they will have parity with what we've incorporated at each of the other high schools. And so when we look at I took some photos, and this is an example of some of the scope of work that we have accomplished or in the process of accomplishing at the high school. A major component at Cerritos High School was a new main switchgear. And this was driven by the electrical needs of the school site. And so this is just a view of that new main switchgear. We're implementing that new main switchgear now. Edison has run a new feeder to this new main switchgear so that we've gotten over that hurdle, which was a major concern that we had, is whether we could re-pull a new Edison line, and that's been completed, so that's great news. And so the new switchgear looks like it will be implemented by the end of this week, and so we'll have power restored to the entire Cerritos High School site, basically tied into this new main switchgear. What we accomplish at Gar High School is significant, and this is just a view of the new NPR seating that has been implemented. You've attended events at the Gar High School, so that's a wonderful addition to that campus with what was accomplished in an existing building. So that was a task to accomplish. This is a view of the restrooms, and we had talked about issues of safety and security and the student perception of restrooms. And so where possible, and certainly under accessibility requirements of the Division of the State Architect, essentially we have to go through almost a gutting of all of these restrooms, new sewer lines, new water lines, and then obviously that leads to new finishes. And this is a view of the Gar restrooms at the NPR building at Gar High School. And then this gives you an idea. I think part of understanding we can have the terms identified in the priority list. What does a restroom renovation mean? What does a science lab mean? There are significant upgrades that occurs when you need to implement these facilities. This is a science lab wall where you have new acid waste line that's required by the state, new water lines, and so there's a significant amount of infrastructure that's implemented in these rooms, and that's where that cost goes. It's easy to show it in a word, but when you actually implement it in the field, this is a part of that accomplishment and what gets implemented. And this is a long-term asset. This is something that's implemented using the bond dollars that really increases the value of the assets of our district facilities. When we look at moving on to the middle schools and where we stand currently, all of the middle schools, the Carmenita, Fetty, and Haskell, as we talked about, Carmenita, Fetty, and Tetzlaff, Carmenita, Ross, and Tetzlaff are substantially complete, and we're moving on to Fetty and Haskell. And so when we look at what a standard classroom means at a middle school, and this is a photo of the Tetzlaff Middle School typical classroom. It has the TV in the center, the whiteboards, and this is the teaching space that is being developed as a part of the modernization projects. So when I talk about a prototype and implementing that prototype uniformly across every classroom, this is kind of the goal that we try to accomplish within the construction documents that we develop for each of the schools. One of the lessons learned that we deal with is what DSA requirements for anchoring components to walls. And so you have various prototypes at each one of our middle schools. You have a lot of brick buildings, and DSA requires structural upgrades to some extent to implement a lot of what we're doing in regards to that modernization typical classroom that you see. And so we're experimenting with ways to avoid and aesthetically deal with the structural issues. And so what we implemented at Haskell was putting in a framed wall, doing that framed wall early so it's not impacting the visual nature of the facility and the infrastructure. And we get it at the bid in a competitive bid. So we get great competitive bids on that structure and then implement that to accentuate the visual nature of each of our buildings. And this is a plumbing wall. I mentioned how much work goes into a restroom renovation. I showed you what the finish is, but this is what goes into a restroom renovation from a structural standpoint. We have to deal a lot with unforeseen conditions, with dry rot, rotted wood that has occurred over 30 years. And so a restroom renovation is just not the finishes, it's all of the structural and infrastructure components that goes into a restroom. And so that, once again, is an asset, increase in the asset value of the district. But it's one of those, once again, when I mentioned a restroom renovation, in a word means this, but in actuality, out in the field, it requires a lot of work to implement for each one of our campuses. And then this is an IDF, MDF cabinet. The amount of wiring that occurs on our sites is significant. And this shows you all of that bundle of wires that goes from every classroom to an IDF, MDF cabinet. So when we talk about technology infrastructure, the physical nature of that is running wire fiber optics to each of our IDF, MDF cabinets in each of our campuses. So that's really a manifestation of what that physical infrastructure means in regards to the expenditure of Measure BB dollars. Next up is the elementary schools, and this is where our current expenditures occur as of 3/31. You can see that the prior year expenditures, certainly for Bragg, where we stand on that. This is the expenditures that we develop as a part of that construction documents. And so when I look at those expenditures, I also look at what it means in regards to hard costs versus soft costs. And I'll kind of go over that. But to give you an idea, hard costs are the construction costs. We also have what's called soft costs. Soft costs are architect's fees, inspection fees, DSA fees. All of those components are considered soft costs. So when you look at your approved budgets, what you have to calculate is what your construction cost is and develop your set of plans based on what the construction bids will come from. And so I'll kind of go over that a little bit, but that's what you kind of need to adjust to when you look at approved budgets and what the balances are and what the hard costs versus soft costs are. And so we've developed a list of what we're looking at as far as a planning schedule for the elementary schools. Bragg Elementary is this year, and then next year we're looking at 6 elementary school projects. These projects are in development right now. We're looking to get DSA approval in November, December of this year. Those projects include Nixon, Leal, Carver, Melbourne, Hawaiian, and Willow. And that is 25-26. In 26-27, we're looking at Kennedy, Palms, Ferguson, Cerritos, Stowers, and Burbank. And then in 27-28, Whitman, Nemus, Gonzalez, Elliott, Aloha, and Juarez. So that's our current plan. Certainly we're in the development stage right now for 25-26 and then proceeding with 26-27 thereafter. And back to those issues that I had talked about in regards to hard costs, soft costs, the ratio is 75-25. 75% of those budgets is for construction cost, and 25% of those approved budgets is generally for planning cost. And then we're also subject to those DSA requirements that I mentioned earlier. And a lot of those issues are driven by accessibility and ADA compliance. And then we're also looking at declining enrollment. Which classrooms, how many classrooms do we have on a site that we want to modernize? How many classrooms can we, fit within the budgets that we have? And how can we target those to make sure that we're putting the bond dollars for the classrooms that are being utilized on the campus? And then this is just a slide showing the percentage of inflation that's impacted our bond program. Approximately 30% inflation has affected construction cost. And essentially, this is a cumulative total. It's year-over-year increase, and you can see the very large increase that occurred in 2022, and then sort of a decreasing inflation. But in general, the overall impact to our budget is an inflation factor of 30%. However, what we are seeing, at least within the district, is a very good competitive environment. And that's very helpful to get the best dollars that we have for our particular projects. And then finally, our next steps are to continue to analyze our project budgets and scope. BRAG is that first step to really develop what an elementary school will be in regards to our budgets. And those expectations are being developed currently with the implementation at BRAG. So we'll still continue to look at school capacities for the elementary schools. We're going to analyze and determine the adult school modernization schedule and planning. And as I had talked about in regards to Tracy High School, we are starting that process to look at implementing improvements to Tracy High School. And it'll be based on what the parity requirements that we develop for Cerritos and GAR and Artesia. In addition, obviously, we're looking at an update cash flow projections. Obviously, on agenda this evening is the issuance of Series C, and that'll be on agenda for action item later in the board meeting. And that concludes the presentation. If you have any questions or comments.
Thank you, Rick. Appreciate it. Now we have two board members right now on the desk and have some questions to ask. We have first is our board member, Mr. Beach.
Thank you.
Please.
Thank you, Madam President. And I have a comment and a question. I really think it's a great idea to look at the equity at Tracy High School and get their classrooms refurbished up to the level of the other high schools, so I was glad to hear you say that. And then I have a question. I don't know if this will be for Gina or Tuan or someone else, but how did we pick the order of the elementary schools?
Great question. So we try to balance between the demographic, right? Title I school versus non-Title I schools. We want to make sure there's equity there. Geographic, similarities between the type of the building. So that's how we came with the plan. It's just a schedule at this time. So that's where we are with this.
Okay, and it does look pretty balanced as far as our districts, some from the south, central, north. The reason I ask that, as you know, staff is going to bring to us a recommendation about moving forward with the declining enrollment. So I'd hate to see us start spending money at a certain school and then later possibly consolidating or looking at other options down the road. So this can be fluid if necessary, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
That was a great question, board member Mr. Beach. Next, we have our board member, Vice President, Mr. Nishii.
Thank you, Madam President. Yes, I have a few questions. So it looks like there's 110% over budget on GARS. That's kind of the issue of trying to make things fair, that projects at the beginning should have the same things that they had planned towards the end, right? So like Cerritos is at 100%, Artesia is at 88%, but these are earlier projects, and this other one, GAR, is one of the later projects. Is that why it's kind of 110%?
I'll answer that. So as Mr. Wadarama has said, inflation since the passage of the Measure BB is 30%. Right? We couldn't have timed that, right? We don't control that. The 6 years before that, 2011, 2016, inflation was half of that, 15%. So we wish it's at 15%, but it's not. Artesia was the first high school under the bond program, so they get the best dollar value for their construction projects. As we develop the scope for each of the school, parity is important. Not only that, we want to honor what was in the master plan. That's our commitment to the community. So we understand that some of these projects will be over, especially when you come to the middle school. We have a plan to address that. 3 funding sources. First would be the interest earned from the bond. We have up to date about $6 million that we can use for any budget over. Second, we have funding from the capital facility fund, which is the developer fees, which for construction or reconstruction of schools, so we can use to supplement that. And third, I'm reluctant to go here, but if we need to, we can redirect some of the budget that was allocated to the district office from the Measure BB to support the schools, right? If that's a priority, we will do that if we need to. So that's a third funding source. So we would go, again, interest earned, district support from the capital facilities fund or our building funds, and redirect some of the budget have been allocated to renovate the district office toward the schools.
Thank you for anticipating my next questions. Because yes, I see that it'd only be fair for GAR to have this amount because inflation, right?
Correct.
They had a certain scope of work, they expected certain things, and we're not going to cut them short because things became 20% more expensive.
That is our goal.
Right. And then the way we pay for that is the $6 million of interest, although that doesn't seem like it's going to be enough because Carmenita is 127% over.
Correct.
So that's $5 million already.
Correct. So we have about $6 million in the capital facility funds also, and then the budget allocated for the district office is $15 million, even if we redirect a third of that.
Okay.
So overall, I'm budgeting about $18 million to cover any budget over, and if should we cross that, we'll come back here.
Got it. Why was Carmenita so much more than we anticipated?
I think it's an older campus, so there's certainly more issues that you have with that older campus.
Okay. So there's something unanticipated things that we did not expect.
Yeah.
That were undisclosed when we couldn't see it, probably behind the walls.
Yeah, it's one of the older campuses, so it has some of the older buildings in the district.
And by the way, the renovations at GAR are pretty amazing. You know, I am so glad when I walked into that theater. You know, kids know when we've invested in them, and we could just have the theater, and it works, it's nice, but the theater that we've invested in at GAR will create some great leaders in our future. I think that's a great investment in that place, and I know it's not cheap, but sometimes the kids need to know that we are investing in them. So thanks to all the seniors who are paying this, and me paying this, and we're all paying for this. Thank you to all the taxpayers who are doing this and helping our future. Haskell. So I know some of the issues are that we follow all the rules, and ADA rules and everything else like that, but I noticed that the entrance is kind of challenging if you have more than one person going through the front entrance. So is there going to be a slight design regarding that particular issue in terms of coming into Haskell?
We haven't developed that yet, but certainly we can look at that.
And the only reason is, like, if you push a wheelchair, you cannot also have another person walk out, and so there could be a safety issue.
Yes.
I'm sure it's not, it's okay by ADA standards, but just in terms of practicality, it might be something, the visual look if it's not that appealing, so hopefully something could be done, because the parents are just waiting outside when they're just waiting outside, and it's
We'll look at that.
no place for them to sit. Are we considering the culture of the particular schools? I know that we have the steps, 1 through, and all our specific factors, but like some schools are performing arts schools, and they may have more of an emphasis on different things than other schools that may be more science-oriented, like Aloha might be more science-oriented. Are we able to address those particular emphasis for those particular schools? Like maybe one school is a performing arts school and they need a decent theater, and one school is a science school and therefore they should have maybe better developed labs. So are we able to adjust for that?
So I'll answer that. So we try to do a lot of that at the high school, as you can see, the black box, the theater Edgar, right? We must follow the steps, because when you talk to 29 different principals, they would want 29 different things. When we telling them, this is all the money we have, this is the focus, and if there's any extra, then we will focus on your school-specific theme or needs. But we must, for parity and other purposes, we must follow the steps and the different priority, the 10 priorities set by the board. So that would be the order.
Okay, it's just because some schools have,
Right.
I may think from my perspective, these are the 10 things that, if everything is the same, then great. But I realize that we have a diversity of interests and importance in certain things. So some places they want the walls to be separated out even stronger. In some places that's not necessary. Some places, again, it's, so if to the extent that we can, like for example at Artesia High School, I thought we were going to improve the pool. And instead of doing that, we did a football field. So that was a very major change. And I thought we were going to build a science center. Instead, we renovated their media center, which, great decisions. Glad wasn't involved with that. But to the extent that we incorporated the desires of the specific principals that were, know the culture of those students and those, that community, it would be good to be able to adapt to that. So that way when we are spending the money on these things, people are wondering, why are we doing this rather than what our priority is in our neighborhood. So if we could do that, that would be great. So yeah, you answered the question regarding the district offices and cafeteria. Probably there's a certain amount of funds for that. Have we done that yet?
That is, we have not. We're focusing on the schools first.
Okay. And how much do we have for the cafeterias or the food services section?
I believe the budget in there is about 2.5 million.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Bungalows. Is there an operational difference between a bungalow and a regular classroom in terms of cost, like to heat, cool, and whatnot?
Not to my understanding.
Okay.
So there could be, right, the look, the cosmetic, or the feeling of it, but in terms of the functionality and the support for it, it's the same.
Because I remember at the very beginning we were saying, oh, these are not cosmetically good, and maybe
Right.
I thought they were more expensive to operate. But it sounds like it's not that much more expensive to operate. Just aesthetically, it's not the best building ever.
Correct.
All right. So then there's no priority in terms of eliminating those, because that's just an issue of aesthetics more than operational costs.
I want to remind everyone, my Paul colleague, this is so-called priority first, and we had the staffs and community also noted, and board approved it when we're here, so we cannot add in own personal thing. What about cultural thing we should add it in here? That can be discussed, is what they're trying to present to us, what need to be done, follow the steps. Because otherwise, community will say, you know what, we'll give you the money, and all of a sudden, you say you're going to do this, and now you also want to do this and this. I think we need to be cautious on that matter.
So, I mean,
Reminds everyone, yeah.
that's what I'm saying. When we did the high schools, and we said we're going to do a pool.
Pool wasn't in there, because it wasn't presented in the community. I remember that very well. They choose not to get a pool in the Cerritos High School.
No, I'm not talking about Cerritos High School. I was talking about Artesia High School. The original plan was for something like that. And so we did adjust to the desires of the community, because if that's not what they really want, that's not what we should really be putting there, right? That would not make sense. So that's why I remember, because I knocked on the doors and said we don't have any pools, and so this at Artesia there was nothing, right? There was that little pool that you can stand up in, and that wasn't even legal for water polo. So that's, I just want to make sure
I
that
want to
the
stay in the
public-
focus in here today.
Okay.
When they present the thing, we need to stay focused on that. That's why the staff were prepared for
I understand. I
this.
just wanted to make sure that, I don't want to lie to the community.
You're not lying to the community. We need to follow the steps. Based on the steps, we follow that, and staff's being followed that. Additional things that we're talking about, you need to go back to the staff and talk about that. not in a public
And
discussion.
so that's why I'm
ranking.
saying, part of what we approved, it was a guideline, and I agree with it. It should be a strong guideline as to what we're doing. It should be fair and parity. For example, the theater and the various things, those weren't specifically written into each of the details of what the voters put out there, right? But we understood its safety. That was critical. And so we spent money on safety. And that was the very first thing we spent on. In fact, if you look at the first expenditures for all the elementaries, that's the first thing that we did. So we did follow the rules in terms of steps. We're going to have structures for the lunches, and we all agreed to that, and we all said that this is an important priority. But what we didn't necessarily say is some of these other things, and so when I also talk to the principals, they're saying like, they're putting these things in and they're not even talking to me. And I get it, it could have been the previous principal, it could have been, but, and I know you're looking at the rules to stop me from talking.
Yeah, I am trying to enforce the rules.
But I just want to actually just, that's what we're here for. We're here to ask questions and express what we think is important. So I think it's important that if a principal says, hey, these are all the steps, and here's all the things that I know I'm going to get, but my school also has an emphasis on, so Nemis has a nature center. That's their focus. Are we going to build a pool over there? No. Are we going to build a track? No. We're not going to do that. We're going to at least attempt to build something that's good for that specific school. And that's all I'm saying, that we have that kind of ability to listen and not just, and we did that. That's the thing. And so I'm saying it's a good thing. We did that at, for example, at GAR. We never said, oh, we're going to build an artificial field over at GAR. We never said that. I don't ever remember knocking on a door saying, we're going to build an artificial football field. I do remember saying we're going to build science centers. Did we do that necessarily at Artesia? We renovated them, which is nice. And that's great. I think that's good. What I'm saying is that we adapted to the situation, which is what we should do as good stewards of the dollars that we're spending. That's all I'm saying. Consider the community. Keep your pulse on the community. Don't just say, oh, I had a plan 20 years ago, and I'm going to follow the plan from 20 years ago. In this case, the plan was made 7 years ago, which is closer to the reality of what they want. But things also changed in the 7 years. We had COVID. So we have to spend money according to what the community wants and how it needs to be done, and in a fair way. That's all. Okay.
You done?
I'm done.
Thank you. First, I want to say thank you, Eric. It's a wonderful presentation here. I do want to ask the staff, since the community is supporting our BB measure, you know how we did it before, we invited community to see what does it need to be done, right? Since we did a lot of portion already, I would like to have, like some museum, they had like a slideshow, the video show, to show the community what we have been done and what was the issue. You talk about infrastructure behind, many people don't see it. And I think we did mention about company that is older school, we all recognize that. That was the very beginning, and they need a lot of work to do. I want to thank you so much, because definitely evidence has proved that. So if we can, I would like to suggest our staff open it up to the community, invite them to visit our school site. And we can have students to show them and go around the area, some of the area to improve it. Like Cerritos High School, I love it, the science building, the 300 area, you have such upgraded science, medical health issues like 3D, the thing you can see the body. Oh, that was awesome. I'm from medical school, so I mean medical nursing school. So I realized, I said, wow, I wish we had that. It's really benefit to our student learning. So I want to thank you. That was really great input there. And all the areas really, I went to room to visit them, and also visit other schools. So it was very well done. So I like to invite our neighborhood to see what we've done. Okay, and let me see. That's, I wrote it down someplace now. And people did ask about the enclosing issue there, and staff is working on that. Hopefully you can come back a solution faster enough, get consulting if we can, have them to decide what should we need to do. just do one-time visit if we can. Because otherwise, that's the community's money, we gotta spend wisely, okay? Okay, if I have a question, I'll get back to you. Thank you so much, appreciate it. Do we have any other, colleague have any question? Seeing none, I want to thank you again for staying here, give us a report. It's really great, very detailed information to us. Appreciate it. Thank you, Tuan, though, too.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else? Then we're going down to action items. I want to remind this, okay, action 1.4-A, may I have a motion to approve revised administrative regulation 4216.1 seniority. I need a motion and a second, please.
Motion approved.
Second.
Dr. Frazier, please.
Thank you, Madam President. Ooh, hot mic, sorry. First of all, I just want to thank the Legislative Policy and Board Advisory Committee for their work. We meet once a month to look over any administrative regulations or board policies that might need to be updated. And so this one, revised AR 4216, is basically defines how seniority is defined for classified employees, and really just was a basic update for CSBA recommendation, and includes the streamlined definition of length of service. That was the biggest change in the language.
Okay, do we have any public comment for this matter?
I do not see any.
Any discussion? I do have Board Member Dr. Rios, please.
And it's probably more of a comment, but it was the first committee I sat on, and sometimes like what catches my attention is that like it was 1979. So I would hate to ask staff to look into a lot of this, but is there a way that we can contract with someone to get our policies up to date? Because I know that sometimes it's not until we have an issue that we come across a policy that is completely outdated. But just something to consider to find these really ancient board policies and get them updated. But again, I definitely don't want to put that on staff. But just something that caught my attention. Thank you.
See, now no more, so I need it. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed 6-0. That's a great thing, Dr. Rios. That was a really great suggestion. On 1.5-A, my motion to approve revised board policy 4217.3, reduction in force and reemployment. I need a motion and a second, please.
So moved. You have a second?
Dr. Fisher, please.
Thank you, Madam President. We're bringing forward revised board policy 4217-.3. Basically, again, just on the recommendations of CSBA, updating the policy. The one change here is the language that gives the timeline for written notice to employees from 30 to 60 days.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any public comments?
I do not see any.
Okay, do you have anything for my colleague here? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
6-0. 1.6-A, may I have a motion to approve revised board policy administrative regulation 5020, parent rights and responsibility. I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
You have a second?
Dr. Zillo, please.
Thank you. This is the policy that the board looked at earlier in the year. And there was a motion made by the board to have a revision to include more details about, particularly in the AR portion, about the age level in which students have privacy rights. And so that was reviewed by our legal counsel. It was taken through the committee. That main change, most of them are based on updates from CSBA. The change that was requested through our board is the one on page 12, or AR 5020D at the bottom, where it indicates that 12 years of age is the age at which students begin to have privacy rights. And just as a side note, that is not based on just a California law. The California law is in alignment with the federal law. So it's a federal requirement.
Thank you. Any public comments?
I do not see any.
Do we have anything for my colleagues? Mr. Nishii?
Thank you, Madam President. I have a couple questions. I want to observe within a reasonable period of time after making the request, parental rights, AR 5020A. What is a reasonable time? Can we put an outside time limit on that, or is there any standard practice of what an outside time of a reasonable period would be? Like no more than a year? And that's the far end, I know. Do we have any any idea?
So I think for this is based on the recommendations of the legal counsel that works with putting these together through CSBA. I think, the board would have to, if they wanted to set a timeline like that, they could. We just would like to have space depending on what the issue is, that we'd have enough time if we needed to verify a situation or something's happening. A reasonable time for us, if you're asking on the last day of school to meet with a teacher, it's probably not going to be until school returns because they're not working at that time. So it just depends on the situation. And so that's why we try and work. And this leaves us able to work within that context.
Okay, that's fine. I had a minor thing I thought it should be added to on page 111, 16. It says to receive information about psychological testing the school does involving their child and deny permission to give. I was thinking it should be in advance, and it's kind of understood that it would be in advance, but everything else is kind of specific, and I know there's also a section later on that talks about it's in advance as well. I think that's 17 or 18, but I was just hoping that this could also include the word in advance, that we'd give them notice. It's understood, but I'd like to make it explicit.
If there's no objections from anyone, that's the process.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead, Dr. Rios, please.
Well, I may be wrong, but in order for any assessment to take place, the parent has to sign off on it.
Correct.
Testing's not initiated by the school, is my understanding.
Okay. See no more, all those in favor, please say aye with the changes. Oh,
Wait.
I thought you pushed a button, right?
Okay. The other one was about 2050E. Parents and guardians may support the learning environment of other children at school, but I'm not sure if that's necessary to have there. You can tell me that it's not needed. This goes monitoring attendance at school, ensuring homework is done, encouraging the children, monitoring the television viewed. But actually, come to think of it, that's not in relation to just school, so that I'll retract that.
Erased.
Okay, no further questions.
None? Okay. Dr. Rios? Those comment making, okay. Thank you. So, seeing none now, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
6-0. Next one is 2.5-8. May I have motion to approve contract amendment and compensation for Dr. Gina Zitlow, Superintendent, Mr. Tuan Lewin, Deputy Superintendent, Chief Finance Officer, Dr. Carol Castro, Assistant Superintendent, Academic Services, and Dr. Joseph Fraser, Assistant Superintendent, Human Resource, with extension for their contract through June 30, 2027. I need a motion and second.
Motion approved.
Second.
Thank you. And this is under pursuant to Government Code Section 54953, Subdivision C3. The board provides this oral summary of the salary and the fringe benefit recommendation for the following local agency executives. Do I need to read all the thing? Okay. For the position of superintendent, an amendment to the employment agreement extending the term of employment over 1 year through June 30 to 2027. Superintendent will be placed on Step A, Range 69 of the Management Confidential Salary Schedule, effective July 1st, 2023, with the annual salary of $300,973 will place to the next step each success year of the contract until the maximum Step E is reached. The superintendent will receive a one-time off-schedule payment equal to 3.72% of total compensation, include salary for 2023 to 2024 fiscal year, the amount of $11,785. All other terms of agreement will remain the same, including insurance and all fringe benefits. The terms of the tentative agreement are incorporated into the proposed contract amendments, which are available upon request. For the position of Deputy Superintendent Chief Financial Officer, an amendment of the employment agreement extends the term of employment 1 year through June the 30th of 2027. The Deputy Superintendent will be placed on Step C, Range 65 of the Management Confidential Salary Schedule, effective July 1st, 2023, with the annual salary of $264,306, and will be proceed to the next step each successful year of contract until maximum Step E is reached. The Deputy Superintendent will receive a one-time off-schedule payment equal to 3.72% of his total compensation, including salary for the 2023 to 2024 fiscal year in the amount of $15,694. All other terms of agreement will remain the same, including insurance and all fringe benefits. The terms of tentative agreement are incorporated into proposed contract amendments, which are available upon request. For the position of Assistant Superintendent Academic Services, all amendment to the employment agreement extending the terms of employee 1 year through June 30, 2027. The Assistant Superintendent will be placed on Step B, Range 61 of the Management Confidential Salary Schedule, effective July 1st, 2023, with the annual salary of $226,272, and will proceed to the next step each success year of the contract until the maximum of Step E is reached. The Assistant Superintendent will receive a one-time off-schedule payment equal to 3.72% of her total compensation, including salary for the 2023 to 2024 fiscal year in the amount of $11,574. All other terms of agreement will remain the same, including insurance and all fringe benefits. The terms of tentative agreement are incorporated into proposed contract amendments, which are available upon request. For the position of Assistant Superintendent Human Resources, an amendment of the employment agreement, including of the terms of employment 1 year through June 30, 2027. The Assistant Superintendent will be placed on Step E, Range 61 of the Management Confidential Salary Schedule, effective July 1st, 2023, with the annual salary of $249,458. The Assistant Superintendent will receive a one-time off-schedule payment equal to 3.72% of his total compensation, including salary for 2023 to 2024 fiscal year, in the amount of $11,484. All other terms of the agreement will remain the same, including insurance and all fringe benefits. The terms of tentative agreement are incorporated into proposed contract amendments, which are available upon request. Do we have any public comment regarding these matters, sir?
I do not see any.
Any discussion for my colleague here? Vice President Ms. Nishii?
This is just so that the public knows that this is the exact same amount that we provided to all the management employees, no more, no less. It's the same terms. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Any other? Saying none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye?
Motion passed 6-0. Now, next item number 3.24-8, may I have a motion to approve request to contract with the New Seller Incorporation to provide 4 in-person professional learning sessions for all high school teachers in history, social science, and ethnic study courses for the 2024 to 2027 school year. I need a motion and second, please.
Second.
Dr. Castro, please.
Thank you. As you saw in my earlier presentation regarding the local dashboard indicators, our history social science teachers had decreased in the rating of receiving professional support, and so this item is to try to address that. We looked at various organizations, but News Ella had the support of the federal Every Student Succeeding Act. They were rated at a tier 2 of showing moderate gains in English language arts improvements and literacy skills. Although this is specifically for social studies teachers, as you know, reading and writing happens more than just in the English classroom, and so this is a way for students to engage with reading and writing skills in their social studies classroom with current news events, providing professional learning to teachers how to specifically use current events appropriately with our students in ABC.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Castro. Do we have any public comments?
I do not see any.
Any board discussion here? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you, 6-0. Item 3.5-8, member. Huh? Jabo? Oh, this one? Okay. We have a motion to conduct public hearing and adopt the special education local plan area annual budget and service plan for the 2024 to 2025 fiscal year.
So moved.
Second.
Dr. Castro, please.
Thank you. Tonight, our SELPA director, Dr. Rochelle Chavez, will be providing you with information regarding our special education local plan area annual budget and service plan. As a reminder, we are a single district SELPA, which what that means is that we provide direct services to our students and our families. And this plan is specifically to examine the requirements from the state. The SELPA functions in order to make sure that we are providing accountability and budget oversight to ensure that funds that are specified for students with different abilities are actually used in an appropriate manner. Coordination of resources to help our families not only for the time that we have the students here in ABC, but also as they approach the time in which they need to graduate or move on to post-secondary goals, making sure that we're providing the best experience possible in a less restrictive environment, providing quality of programming, ensuring due process rights with mediation services, increasing our community involvement and our parent participation through our community advisory committee and various workshops to better educate our parents of differing abilities. So now I will hand it over to Dr. Chavez.
Good evening, President Say, Vice President Nishii, Clerk Noyola, distinguished members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Zietlow, and community members. Tonight, I will review the special education annual service plan and annual budget plan. There may be some unfamiliar terminology throughout this presentation, so I've included definitions at the end of the presentation for your reference. So SELPA is a regional special education delivery system. It can include many small districts or one large district, but it must provide a full continuum of services for children within its boundaries. These regions are called Special Education Local Plan Areas, or SELPAs. ABC is a single district SELPA and must complete a SELPA local plan annually, demonstrating how students residing within its boundaries will receive services. The California Department of Education requires each school district's governing board to hold a public hearing annually and approve the special education annual service and budget plan. So this is our timeline. This SELPA plan was provided to the Community Advisory Committee on April 11th, 2024. They must have 30 days to review the plan prior to the board presentation. It was submitted to LACO for feedback and certification, and LACO did certify the local plan without any recommended changes. Tonight, I am presenting this plan at the public hearing, and then after this, it will go to the California Department of Education. So this year, we will be reviewing 3 important components. Every 3 years, we need to review our governance section, or section B. So these are the components of section B. It's our geographic service area, our policies, procedures, and programs, our administration of regionalized operations services, and our SELPA services. So this portion, this governance portion of our plan is fairly straightforward because we're a single district SELPA. And so the geographic service area is our district boundaries. The SELPA governance is in line with the ABC Unified School District's organizational structure, and the policy-making process follows the district outline processes. Part of being a SELPA is making sure that you're having good relationship and communication with your community. And ABC, we have our Community Advisory Committee. This is a photo of Joy Dye, a program specialist, Catherine Patel, our CAC co-chair, and myself at Legislative Sharing Day, where we met with our representatives to advocate for legislation that supports students with disabilities. Catherine Patel has been an amazing CAC co-chair and has done a lot for our CAC. This is her last year as her child is graduating. So I just want to say some kind words about her because we really appreciate all she's done for the Community Advisory Committee, and she's really trained our parents of our board to continue her strong work in special education. So this is a list of our federal and state regulations that must be reflected in the governance, and these are all consistent with our current board policies. So going back to making sure that we build relationships with our legislators, this was a photo from a visit with Assemblymember Sharon Quirk Silva. She came to visit Cabrillo Lane, and she came by the Adult Transition Program. This is an opportunity for the SELPA to share our program and our needs so that when we go to Sacramento to meet with her and talk to her about increased funding for special education or for legislation to support our students, she can put a face to the name. All right, this includes, so our administration of regionalized programs includes systems for monitoring compliance, coordination of services, and collaboration with local agencies to provide a continuum of services for students with disabilities. Here is an example of coordination of services to students. So this is a photo of our first adult transition fair, where the SELPA program specialist, Stephanie Peterson, who oversees adult transition program, and Winnie Lee, who coordinates the CAC, brought together post-secondary resources for families to learn what's available to students after they leave high school or the adult transition program. We hosted 14 vendors, which included Department of Rehabilitation, UCLA, Cerritos College, Disability Student Services, and Harper Regional Center. It was a very successful event. We look forward to doing this again next year. This section includes processes for how students will receive services according to state and federal requirements. The SELPA office works closely with the special education office to ensure that they have the most up-to-date information on policies and procedures. So one way the SELPA maintains contact with families is through the ABC SELPA website, which includes resources for to families. The CAC hosts quarterly parent workshops to help parents navigate special education. And once we've completed a CAC workshop, we upload the presentation to the website. So if parents weren't able to attend, they can go into our website and they can log in and view presentations that have been done in the past. So that was section B. So section D, you're probably more familiar with. This is something we present every year. And this is the annual budget plan where we discuss funds that were received, funds that were spent and what services were purchased with those funds. I do want to thank Monica Aurora, the Director of Fiscal Planning Services, for her collaboration on the annual budget. So the budget includes sources from federal, state, and local funding. These funds received are restricted funds. The SELBA budget must include costs associated with providing services, including low incidence, severe and non-severe disabilities, and it includes what supplemental aids and services will be provided to ensure students are placed in the least restrictive environment. And next, I will go over the annual service plan. The annual service plan shows the services currently provided to students with disabilities. Some services are not currently being provided, but if a student moved into the district requiring those services, the district would be obligated to provide them. So you will see in your packet a service grid. This grid outlines which schools offer which specific services. The services are determined by each student's individualized education program. So again, this is just a snapshot in time of what's currently being provided. But if a student moved in or from another district requiring a service that's not currently provided, or we have a student that requires a new service, then we would need to provide that service. And across the top, you'll see like different codes, 200 codes, 300 codes. This is just a legend to show you which codes stand for which types of services in the plan. So once the plan is board approved, it will be submitted to the California Department of Education by June 30th, and it will be available on the ABC SELPA website. This concludes the SELPA Local Annual Service Plan and Budget Plan presentation. I would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Do you have any question? Oh, we have Board Clerk, Mr. Neola.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chavez, for your presentation. I just had a question. As a former alumni of Cerritos College, does ABC do any coordination or transition with Cerritos, like their student accessibility service department, or is there any work that parents can be accommodated directly through them?
Absolutely. So starting at age 16, students must have in their IEP what's called an individual transition plan, or an ITP. And this plan includes what supports will be provided to them once they leave us, either in high school or from the adult transition program. And that includes working with our local community colleges or our local colleges with their Disability Services Center. We also invited them, they came to our transition fair and had a table and met with parents and answered any questions they might have.
Next one will be our Vice President, Mr. Nishii.
Thank you, Madam President. So you had big shoes to fill, and looks like you filled them very well. This is a very clear report. I can just easily go through and understand what you're talking about. So I appreciate it. Not a lot of questions, except do you find that it's increasing in terms of the need that's out there for these services? And what kind of rate is it increasing by, and how is your budgeting being addressed with that?
So I will say that there is an increase in identification of students with disabilities statewide. So for many years, the average identification rate was at 10% for many years. Recently, it's up as high as 13%. But we're seeing this statewide. As far as the budget is concerned, in the last few years, we have seen some increased funds towards special education services, but we don't anticipate any immediate additional funding at this time.
So you're finding that 13% have increased, and that's over about how many years? Since you've started, or since?
I would say in the past, it's been over the past 4 years, we've
4 years.
seen an increase, I would say, yeah, probably in line with COVID, actually. I'm not doing the math.
Maybe that's, there's a connection, who knows? But did your budget increase by that percentage more? Or, and these students cost a little bit more than the regular budget, right, per student?
So we receive different types of grant funding, as you saw, federal and state funding specifically targeted and restricted to students with disabilities. But I would let Tuan respond to any specifics regarding special education funding.
Thank you for the question. It's on page 151 of your packet. So, yes, unfortunately, or I shouldn't say unfortunately, the reality is, as Dr. Chavez has shared, the special education population has always been around 10%, this statewide, right, of your general population. But recently, with declining enrollment, when funding goes down, the needs to support special students have gone the other way in terms of both more students are now identified as special ed students and the additional needs of that. To recognize credit to the state, they have tried to provide additional funding in the past few years to support that. However, it's not catching up with the needs or the expenditures. And as you can see on page 151, the local contribution is about $16 million. So the total budget for the special ed program in ABC is about $41 million. Out of that, $16 million comes from the district-owned general fund. So that is what the term used to be encroachment, but now it's just unfunded liability, mandated, meaning that between the federal government and the state government, they need to come up with that much. And that's about 39% of your budget. And that's the range that we seeing from district out there is the local support is ranging between 35 to 40% of the budget.
Thank you. So, and this is a curiosity. It's been 13%, so that's a 3% increase, but that doesn't mean a 3% increase in cost. That's actually significantly more than 3%.
That is correct.
Right?
That is correct. One is, we talk about two different things, right? The 33% is population. In terms of budget, that has been going up, outpacing the normal COLA that we receive. So the contribution, that $16 million you've seen, has been going up at a higher pace in the past few years.
So we've had more kids that need the additional services.
Correct.
And we've been getting a little bit more in state funding for that, but not enough to compensate the difference in the increase.
Like this, yes.
And yeah, it's, I mean, $60 million, but there are kids, so I mean,
Correct.
We have to spend that.
Correct.
Yeah. All right, thank you very much. I appreciate answering my questions, and I really appreciate the work that you're doing on all this. I've heard a lot of good things, so keep it up. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chavez. I have a question about, since we're talking about the self-services, including students from 0 to 5-year-old, and I think early identification is a very important role for us in the future. If we have like early childhood education and TK program we have now already, how do we identify them? I think the staff have to work with the local hospital and California Children's Services, which CCS, identify those students may potentially like CP, cerebral palsy, or a premature baby. I mean, March 9 is improving a lot, the premature delivery, but however, there's still some out there. If we can identify them earlier and put in the system, I think the early detection can prevent a lot of delay education and treatment. So I just wondering, hopefully in the future we can link with the local hospital and link with the CCS very closely. We can find those kids is in our community and get them in, get early education and treatment. It'll be much better for actually long-term runs. You can see a lot of saving our budget.
Yes, so Linda Chan, our Tracy Infant Center head of program, works closely with Harbor Regional Center and our local hospitals so that we receive the referrals immediately when infants and toddlers are identified with disabilities.
Yeah, I think, again, I still want to recommend the staff the application for kids enrolled to school. The one item you really should focus on, are you a premature baby or you have some, special needs. If we have that when it comes to us, automatically we'll put in the system. That'll be really a lot great. Okay, thank you though, really wonderful report here, Dr. Jeff. Thank you for your hard work.
Thank you.
Okay, since we have our discussion here, no further comments, the hearing is closed. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passed 6-0. Items 3.268, may I have a motion to approve request to adopt the following textbook titled Business Law Tax and Cases 16th edition and Laboratory and Diagnostic Testing in Ambulatory Care, 4th edition with the workbook for the 2024 to 2025 school year. I need a motion and a second, please.
So moved. Second.
Dr. Castro, please.
Thank you. This item is to continue to support the expansion of our dual enrollment classes, as you saw that I presented earlier. These two classes are specific to the needs of some of our CTE pathways, in particular to health occupations and business law requirements.
Thank you, Dr. Castro. Do you have any public comment?
I do not see any.
Any discussion from my colleague here? Seeing none? Am I right? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. Item 4.128, may I have a motion to adopt Resolution 2328, resolution for the board education of the ABC Unified School District declaring intention to reimburse expenditures for proceeds of a issued debt. Am I right? Did I miss one?
4.10A.
I want a 4.12A. Did I miss one pages? Oh, 1.8.
Budget.
410A? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve request to adopt the local control accountability plan, which is so-called LCAP, and the budget for 2024 to 2025 fiscal year? I need a motion and a second.
Second, Noyola.
Mr. Lewin.
Thank you, President Say. This is the second of a two-step process. At the last meeting, Dr. Castro and I present to the Board of Districts LCAP and budget for the 24-25 school year. Tonight, we receive feedback and directions from the board. And the county. We incorporate that into the final budget and LCAP. And tonight, we are presenting those for the board to the board for approval.
Do you have any public comment?
I do not see any.
Oh, okay. I have Mr. Beach.
Thank you, Madam President. Just a quick comment. This is the first LCAP plan that I'm approving that has a budget deficit not only this year, but for the upcoming 3 years. And I'm glad we kept a 10% reserve of $28 million to offset the blow for the next 3 to 4 years. Very proud of that fact. And I think the future board will have some very difficult decisions to make. And I hope that the executive cabinet starts now preparing for that so we can lessen the damage later. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Beach. And now we have Vice President Ms. Nishii.
Thank you, Madam President. I also echo the concerns that we have regarding the budget. Obviously, people are first, so that you're softening the blow this year, at least this right now, is good and important. But when we come to mid-year, that when we have to come up with hard decisions, they're really hard when it's later on and it's the year is over, right? So to the extent that we can mitigate this, because it looks like the following year is going to be $5,200,000, roughly $700,000 more, based on certain projections, and hopefully those projections are wildly in the direction that we need it to be, so that it's not like this. But that maybe sometime in January, December, when we get other numbers potentially, that we'll be able to address this before it gets even worse. Because I know other districts have taken a different tact, and they have cut people, and very not in a good way. And so they've retracted those because they got community input saying that this was a bad move, and we didn't do that, and that's a good thing. But based upon, obviously, declining enrollment, lessening revenues, and projections, because this projection is projecting that we have a good labor relationship, and that what's good about our teachers is that they value their other teachers, and they don't want to see people being cut. And so that's the good part, strong part of our partnership, and that will continue on, and that's what we presume in this budget. That's the assumption of this budget, even though it says that we're spending an extra 4.5. It's based upon the trust that we have in our teachers, that they also value themselves and their cohorts. So thank you. That's all I have to say. It's just a statement.
Okay, so no more further. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. So, next one, 4.11A, may I have a motion to approve estimated actual finance report for the 2023 to 2024 fiscal year. I need a motion and second.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Nguyen.
Thank you, Board President. Say, as part of the requirement from Education Code 42100, annually, the district have to present to the board. This is an estimate. So that's why the term estimated actuals. After we close the books in July and August, come September, we'll present to the board something called the unaudited actuals, which is the actual actuals before the auditors come in and audit the books. So at this point, this is only an estimation for the current year, the year that is ending in 12 days, in the 23-24 fiscal year. This year, on page 179 of the report, we anticipate revenues totaling $338 million, where the last column would say total, with expenditures of $329 million, transfer out about $6 million, we will have a net positive of $3.2 million. So this is the last year that we will be operating in the plus, in the positive, in the black. So of about $3.2 million. 820,000 of it is unrestricted and 2.4 of it is restricted. So that is adding to the fund balance of 99.7 million that we are anticipating. Again, this is an estimate to end this year with a total fund balance of $103 million. 74.6 million of which is restricted. What's available for the board is 28.4 million. And as mentioned earlier by Mr. Beach, we will be using that carefully to address our deficit in the future years, and we will address any adjustment to the budget should we need to accordingly, and the superintendent will present it to the board if we need to.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any public comments?
I do not see any.
Okay, do we have any discussions here? Seeing none?
No,
Oh, I
sorry.
didn't see.
So I'm just curious, Tuan, what was the projected amount that we were going to have at our balance?
So for this year, we are projecting that we were in the positive, as the board recall, through the different budget presentation, because this year we received a COLA of 8.22%. So this is on record one of the higher, if not the highest, COLA that district is receiving. But we are offsetting that with declining enrollment and health benefit increase, right? And with compensation increase that the board approved with the different groups. So we pretty much have what I would say a balanced budget with a slight increase to the fund balance. This is intentional, and this came in as anticipated.
Okay, I remember numbers like 80, I don't remember 103.
If you look at the second interim report back in March, it's anticipated around 100 million, if you remember.
Okay, so I would say we're in a very good place with starting the year next year with $103 million in the bank.
Well, depends how you look at it, because that is the fact that we will be ending the year with $103 million, right? But 74.6 of it is restricted. That's number one. So unrestricted is only about 28 million, and that's about 10%. And if you recall my presentation from the last meeting, that's less than half of what other districts have. But we appreciate what we have at this point, and we will watch that closely, and we will spend it frugally to support our students and our programs.
Okay, Thank you.
Say maybe help out our foster kids a little bit more?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the next one will be our board member, Mr. Beach, please.
Thank you, Madam President. Tuan, please keep the unrestricted net change in the black so we can say we've had 4 years of budget surpluses. Thank you.
Yes. This is, we have been operating, working with our employee groups, adding to the bottom line, if you will, right? Operating in the positive as long as we can. Very little, but it's in the right direction for the rainy day, for the years that we know that will be coming, which is next year and possibly the year after that, and the year after that, until there's a change, in state revenues. So, or there's a stabilization in our enrollment. So we need those two factors to come together. Thank you.
Okay, see no more, and then all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Tuan. So motion passed 6-0. Now I have 4.12A. May I have motion to adopt resolution 23-28, resolution of the Board of Education of the ABC Unified School District declaring intention to reimburse expenditures for receipts of issued debt. And I need a motion and second, please.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Lewin.
Thank you. My presentation will address the next two items, which is 4.12A and 4.13A. This is, we are asking the board for approval to go to issue our next series of bond. As you recall, in November 2018, the voters approved Measure BB, which authorized school ABC to issue up to $258 million in bond proceeds to renovate our schools. We have issued two series already, which is about $128 million. The first two issuance, this is the third of the four. If you recall, we were planning to issue every 2 years and plan to finish the constructions in 10 years. That was our bond program. So we are ready to issue our third series, which is another $64.5 million. We are down to about $3 million in funding from that bond program. Okay. So by the time we receive the Series C funding, there may not be enough money to cover that. And that's why we have item 4.12, is in the event that the general fund have to support the expenditures, the proceed will reimburse any of that funding should we need to tap into that. So that's 4.12. 4.13 is the actual issuing of Series Cs. There's three things that is important for the board. Page 273, what you want to know is the cost of issuance. Has that been the same, up or down? And has been the same at the first two series, so we're able to keep that cost the same and it's not adjusting for inflation. So that's number one. Number two, we all know that the current interest rate is a little bit higher than the first two series. Right now, we are looking at about 4.6% on average interest rates because the bond that the district issuing is tax exempt, both federal and state. So if you were to purchase the bonds and you earn interest from that, you don't have to pay federal or state income on that. So that save depends on your tax bracket, 30%. So that's why we're able to issue it at lower rate. And the third thing is most important is the payback ratio, right? If you were to borrow $64.5 million, if you pay interest, at the end of the day, how much is the total payment? And we always trying to keep that ratios under 2-to-1, which is going to be double that, or about $128 million, right, when it's all said and done. Very similar to your mortgage, right? When you pay all principal and interest back, it should be twice as what you borrow. The maximum ratio that the state allows 4-to-1. So it depends on how you structure your bond. You can go up to 4-to-1, meaning that if you borrow $64 million, you can have up to $258 million in total payment. We will never go beyond 2-to-1. We're trying to keep it to 2-to-1, which is one of the lowest ratio out there. So even at 4.6%, our total payment, including interest, will be about $128 million. So that's similar to the first two issues. So payback ratios, cost of issuance, interest rate, and all that also depends on the district credit rating. It's very similar to your FICO score. The higher it is, the better interest rate that you will get. So we are meeting with rating agencies to ensure that the district will be able to retain our high credit rating to able to get the 4.6% interest rate, which is lower than the market right now. So lastly, we will also go through the same method that we did in the past two issuance, which is the competitive bidding method, that we will invite all brokers out there to bid on the bonds. And the one that with the lowest bidding will be the winning bid. So in the past, it was very competitive. It came within like 6 basis points, meaning 6/10 of 1%. We'll invite the board and the members of the Citizen Oversight Committee to watch that process should that, on that day.
Thank you, Tuan. I know you almost covered 4. Thank you, Tuan. I know you almost covered 4.12A and 4.13A.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
now we're going to go first one is a 4.112A. And
Yes.
do we have any public comment on that?
I do not see any.
Okay. Any discussion? I know I have one. Mr. Nishi, is it related 4.12A?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Go ahead.
just in general with
Okay.
all the items.
Okay.
Specifically. So it sounds like the first one is related to borrowing money if we spend too much, because we've kind of gone to the very end of the.
Correct.
So we've kind of delayed to hopefully get at the low end of interest.
We are, if you recall, when we started the year, it was the expectation that the Fed will start cutting rate about now, right?
Yeah.
June. That didn't happen. So we wait as long as we can.
Right, and if
Yes.
we don't do this now,
We
we'll
won't
stop.
have any money to fund our
We
projects.
can't pay for our projects, so we'd have to slow down.
Either we have to slow down, stop, or issue a new bond. Right.
What?
Either we slow down or start issuing the bond right now, if we were to wait any longer.
Right, it would materially stop things, and to stop things would not be good, because that's a lot of money.
Correct.
That's very expensive to start and stop and start and stop.
Correct.
In the middle of your project, because you ran out of money.
Correct.
So that was a smart thing to do. I appreciate that. But the fact that it's a kind of a high interest rate right now, how does that affect the person who's paying the property tax?
It's the same as
It
our
is.
commitment to the voters, that we will keep it under $55 per $100,000 in assessed value. So this will be under that.
Okay, so
Yes.
me as a taxpayer, I'm not going to see my bill go up another X, because we already figured some of this into the calculations?
Correct, all of that. Because if you know that every year we benefit from the increase in the assessed value, because it's based on the assessed value. As there's turnover in homes. So, for example, if you were to purchase a house 15 years ago, your assessed value is at $400,000. Now, if you were to sell it for $1.2 million, now the assessed value is at $1.2 million. I'm kind of using a real life example, but
so the idea is that
the assessed value went up, so we keep the rate stable
I'm not
under
going to
55.
pay more,
Correct.
but
Per
since-
$100,000 in assessed
Per
value.
$100,000 assessed value. I'm not going to be
Correct.
paying more, but I will be paying more in interest. So the term of this is a little bit longer, or does it stay the same?
25 years.
25 years, no matter
Correct.
what.
Correct.
So the interest rate went up. I'm paying the same,
Correct.
and it's still 25 years.
Correct. We structure the bonds that way.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's magic.
Yes.
Um,
Trust me.
and I have to trust you, because you're our financial expert.
Because all of that is because of the assessed value increase. You have a bigger base
Right. There's
to
more
apply
people.
that now.
So if there's a
Correct.
lot more
It's not
richer
more
people.
people. They pay it on a higher value, like the example was given, right? That same house used to pay $5,000 in property tax. Now, because of the turnover, it'll be $10,000 at the same rate,
Right.
on the same house.
Because my low value house, but somebody else bought a house, say, for $1
Correct. The
million,
new
and now that
person,
huge
the new
increase in
owner
value.
will have to pay at the higher rate, at what they purchase.
And so that kind of keeps my tax rate what it is.
Steady.
All right.
Correct.
Now I understand. It's not so magic anymore.
Sorry.
But thank you. I appreciate it. I just wanted to know. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do we have any on the floor here? Thank you, Tuan. If none, all, oh, you look at me, I thought you could. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Well, thank you for using house property, that I know very well. The 4.13A, may I have a motion to adopt Resolution 23-29, Resolution of Board Education of the ABC Unified School District, providing for the insurance of ABC Unified School District. Is that insurance, right? That was right, right? General Obligation Bond 2018, Election Series C, in the principal amount of not to exceed $64,500,000, prescribing the terms of the bond and their sale, approving forms of bonds authorizing the exact execution and the delivery of preliminary official statement and official statement for the bond, authorizing exact execution of certain documents and agreement in connection with the insurance of bond, making certain funding and determination, and taking related actions. I need a motion and second.
So moved.
I'll second.
Hallelujah. I know one, you already explained already, so I'm not gonna go back to you again. So now, do we have any public comments?
I do not see any.
Okay,
I've never spent so much money in one night.
thank you. Any discussion from my colleague here? Seeing none, am I right? Okay, so if none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed, 6-0. Now, we're down to the board member reports. Oh, we have Dr. Hino, am I right? Yep, Dr. Hino, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to wish all the fathers in our district a happy belated Father's Day. I hope you all had a lovely time with your families. Again, I'd like to wish everyone a happy summer vacation, and I hope you all enjoy a safe 4th of July holiday. May God bless you all and keep you well. Madam President.
Thank you. Next one's our board member, Mr. Beach.
Thank you, Madam President. I attended the City of Cerritos' first CEB car wash. It was great to see all the Marines in Cerritos washing cars and making some money. I'd also, like Dr. Yenyo, like to wish all the Father's Day, or fathers, a late happy Father's Day, and for all the father figures in our kids' lives. Lastly, I just want to report that I jog by Carver, Nixon, Bragg, Tetzlaff, and Haskell weekly, and construction is underway at 3 of those schools, I can assure you, and they're making great progress. So that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Beach. Next one will be our board member, Dr. Rios.
Thank you, Madam President. I just quickly want to join in the celebration of Pride Month and celebrate the LGBTQ plus community this month, and in celebrating what makes us all unique. This helps us achieve the true meaning of being an inclusive community. I also want to thank everyone for an amazing year, and it looks like we got our work cut out for us, so recover, rest, and let's all come back ready to make this next year just as amazing, if not much more. So that is it. Have a wonderful summer, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Rios. Next one will be our board clerk, Mr. Nariola.
Thank you, President Say. I just also want to wish everybody a happy summer, especially our summer school is almost out, so giving them a special shout out for all their hard work this summer. And I also want to thank all the admin staff here. I know school doesn't get out for you guys, but we appreciate you guys here on the board, and especially our superintendent. Thank you, Dr. Lilo and Danielle, for everything you do year round. And yeah, I also want to celebrate Pride Month and also Men's Health Month. So thank you guys, and have a great 4th of July weekend.
Thank you, Mr. Nariola. The next one will be our Vice President, Mr. Nishii.
This will be hopefully short. Got to help meet the Consul General of Japan for representing our district, so that's kind of nice. Happy Father's Day to everybody. Thank you to everybody. I mean, some teachers need a summer break. They definitely need the summer break. They've gone through so many things through the years, and I just, having a barbecue is nice. So thank you, Tuan, for being a leader in person in every way, not just physically, but also on the ground, working hard, and everybody here in this room right now, all the colleagues that I have here, thank you. Thank you for tolerating my many questions that I have, because I just don't know everything. I gotta ask the questions, and it's not to be mean or try to change everything. It's just because I am really interested in making sure that everything that we work for, everybody here works extra hard, and I have to appreciate that. I can't let any effort be wasted, and that's the only reason I'm here.
I want to thank you very much. You know, you do have a right, all the board members, my colleagues have a right to ask questions, but we do need, as the board president, my focus really stay in the focus, stay in the steps, stay where we approved, agree to the community. But anyway, I want to thank you, my colleague, for this past year, you know, all the activity that you have been attending, and I really sincerely appreciate for your support to district, and all, I mean, overall, we are a team, as one team only. So yes, happy, safe summertime. So announcement, next regular board meeting is on August 6th. So I'll be back and fly in at that time. The district office boardroom here. Committee meetings, Citizen Oversight Committee, Tuesday, June 25th at 6 p.m., district conference room. Policy Board Advisory Committee on Wednesday, August 28th, 6:30 p.m., district conference room. Do you have any second public comments, sir?
I do not see any.
Now I'm asking the motion and second to move adjournment.
Second?
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Have a nice summer to the union staff too, please. Thank you. There's some signing too. Sign.